Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Town of Rhinebeck special town board meeting of tonight, November 29th. Would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice. This is a workshop on employee benefits, and also, I guess, we'll have any employee practices and compliances, any questions on this as well. But before we do that, there are two pieces of business I need. I'm going to take it out of order if anybody else has any business. We neglected last night to set our public hearings for the fire contracts for Rhinecliff and Hillside. So I'd like to set our public hearings for the Rhinecliff and Hillside fire contracts at our next town board meeting, December 12th at 6:45 p.m. So John can notice the public for that. Also, I wanted to make a motion on a resolution for a policy on audio-visual recordings for the town board. So I will make a motion for resolution 2016-265. We regularly have all of our regular meetings taped. We have no policy on our special meetings and our workshops, and I thought we should just put one into place to cover them all. I think we should also, I will check with the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. I think that all meetings of all statutory boards should always be taped, and that's what I'm putting forth. May I have a second on this? Is there any discussion on it?
I think it's a really good idea.
So that there's no...
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing to put in place.
So that whenever we schedule a meeting, the clerks will automatically
Yes.
have it videotaped, and we will address the zoning board and planning board after I've spoken with them at our next meeting.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Does anybody else have any new business?
Yeah, I have a resolution for the recreation director's salary.
Okey dokey.
So I'll just read it. So whereas by resolution 2016-254, the board hired Elaine Fernandez as the town's recreation director starting January 1st, 2017. And whereas the board needs to set a salary and hours for the position, now therefore be it resolved that as recreation director, Ms. Fernandez will be expected to work 20 hours per week at an annual salary of $20,800 payable in equal and bi-monthly payments.
Yeah. I'll
That's it.
second that.
Okay.
Is
I
there-
thought, though, the hours are gonna be more in the summer and less
Yeah, it's an
in
average.
the winter, the way you have it.
I'll say an average of 20 hours per week.
Yes, but we're breaking it up into,
A yearly average.
yes.
Yeah.
So because it'd be hard for somebody to not count on a wage.
Yes.
I guess a consistent wage is what we're dealing with here. Right? Yeah, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Ayes have it, thank you. Any other new business? Okay. Before we go on to the compensation and benefits manual, I just wanted to see if there were any questions about the employment practices and compliance manual.
I gave Michael one.
Yeah, there's typo.
A month.
And from our employees, too. Excuse me.
Elizabeth, I assume that after we finish the draft of these, we are going to give it to our employees, both things, and ask if they have comments, because they know these things better than we do. And one concern I have is, I don't know what's been left out of the existing manuals, but I think our employees will be better able to pick that up.
Well, we've
and
released
tell
them,
us.
they're public records, so our employees have them. There are some comments and questions. We can come back to it, we can do it now. You can,
If I may, Elizabeth, there may be some merit on the employment practices compliance manual, because that's how you.
that's what I asked for,
put pieces
compliance.
together.
That's what I asked for.
But as far as employee involvement at large. So employment practices and compliance, it's not uncommon to have feedback from the employees because of what you just said. Now, when it comes to compensation and benefits, I have to advise against that, because you are in effect starting to collectively bargain. And you shouldn't do that.
I think we only asked for comments for employment practices and compliance manual at this time.
Yeah.
Michael, I violently disagree with you.
I'm just warning you, because you're opening up a voluntary recognition of a bargaining.
Okay, but then maybe we should just discuss it and not pass it. But I think it is something that the public ought to know and the employees know. It deals with lots of issues that will affect,
No, I'm just talking about feedback.
what?
I'm talking about,
Oh, okay, so you're not saying we shouldn't release the,
They've
public
been,
document.
they're
Always has.
released, they're out in the ether, everyone can get these, they're on our
it's
website.
always been something.
Just that this is public information.
And Joe, I must say, I've dealt with a couple of clients that wanted to do their compensation and benefits in the dark and not release it, and I said, you can't do that.
oh, okay,
It's
fine.
public. No, what I'm saying is that feedback on practices, that's good business. But when you deal with the compensation and benefits, you are crossing a line under the Taylor law where you're starting to engage in bargaining, and be careful there. I'd have to advise you against that.
Well, then I think we got to really think about whether we should adopt it without feedback from the non-union employees.
How has the document been out there for, because they've been public documents all along.
I don't know. I
Oh,
certainly don't want to rush this, but,
But you'd like to get it done by January
Yeah.
1, right?
yeah.
Okay, I'm an employee, and I'd just like to say, I've only heard scuttlebutt of this going on,
Because you haven't attended a meeting.
because I haven't attended a town board meeting, but I only heard scuttlebutt. I found out about this at 2:30 today. So, and I spoke to other employees that work in this building, and they are in the same spot as me. I just chose to come tonight, they couldn't.
So this is probably my fault. I think I asked for this to be sent out, and I don't know why it wasn't. So we don't have to rush the employment practices and compliance manual. It's not our intention to rush it, and we do want your feedback.
Well, yeah, I think we're talking really about both things, because it deals with lots of issues, including retirement and.
Getting on compensation and benefits, I have to strongly advise you, no. That is not something for feedback. That is your job as elected officials to set compensation and benefits. And otherwise, you're collectively bargaining indirectly.
I hear what you're saying.
Well, but it's one thing about the feedback, which I want to think about, but
Well, the
I think,
board will
let me finish, Elizabeth, please. But I think it should be released.
Oh, yeah,
And, okay.
absolutely. It's always been a public document.
Yeah.
I think the only thing he's saying, Joe, is that it will be released, but that as far as the benefits manual, that the employee shouldn't, it shouldn't be an open, like, input feedback session with regard to that piece, right? It's just the other one that can be. But that they're public information.
Let me go back to employment practices and compliance manual. Would you like to submit written comments? Would you like to sit down with me informally and have me bring it to the board? How would it be best for you to deal with this?
I guess I'll answer for me personally. I read it over as bookkeeper, looking at who's gonna implement this, who's gonna do that. This is different than what we are currently doing. Have you taken this into
Account, yep.
when you thought about it? So like, most of my notes are going to be more along the lines of, like, who has the forms? You have in here about doing the evaluations, which we don't have any forms for. Have you considered, making sure that you get the forms so that when you do adopt this, you can then start to implement a lot of these things that
Yeah, they're coming out of a.
haven't been done?
I have a battery of forms, and they come from that.
Okay, great.
Can I just interrupt for a moment? Maybe we can see them in advance, maybe see a sampling, so you guys have opportunities to see different types of forms and weigh in. If you have a bunch of them, do you have a few of them you could send as samples?
Specifically which?
Well, just, is there a standard evaluation form?
No, that needs to be, there's a model, but the form actually gets developed more specifically to the jobs we're evaluating.
Oh, so there'd be
it's
different evaluation forms for each job?
Not each job, but each category. You can imagine that for clerical administrative, you have a different form you use for,
For
say,
labor.
labor intensive.
Yes, I understand.
Then there's another one even for supervisory types. They're not hugely different. Now, just not to get too far into this, we've all seen performance evaluation forms that are redundant, ridiculous. And the ones that we use, we target them on 5 core aspects of that type of job. And so they're very, very simple. So the reason they get tailored a little bit is that there might be 2 or 3 employees that are dealing with financial issues. So you're going to want to have things that are a little bit more towards the finance aspect. So the overall structure of the evaluation is uniform, but some of the specifics, because we're limiting it to 5, because again, we've seen these where it's all over the map. You're asked to evaluate personal charm, and charm has nothing to do with this job. You can be a grump bucket, it doesn't matter. Do you keep good numbers? And so that's what this type of form looks like. Now, some of the other forms that are in there, like background checks for new hires and all that kind of stuff, that's just standardized forms.
Okay, thank you.
My next point of, that I looked at that jumped out at me is on page 5, location of files. It talks about all of the personnel files, the I-9s, the medical records, all those types of forms being in.
Which part and which page?
Page 5, section 2.72.
So it's part
Which
2,
part? Part 2?
Part 2, page 5.
Yes, I'm sorry, part 2, page 5. It talks about all of the personnel files, the medical, the I-9 forms, being in the supervisor's office. They are currently all in my office.
No, it actually says it kept in a location designated by the town supervisor.
We went over this, and I'm going to designate that they be kept in your office.
Shucks, okay.
But good one, yeah.
I tried. Okay, so then there must be another working draft that there's some changes to, because this is my copy.
What's your draft look like?
Does it have a date on it?
November 16th, 2014?
Yeah, there's, the last draft went through on the 15th.
Okay. Well, then maybe,
Look, it may be that we ought to have a session where the employees can give input after they've really had a chance to look at this.
Well, again, I think for a lot of it, the quick give and take, so that there are 2 ideas. We could do a work session with me.
Yeah. But Shelley's is addressing this now, so I think we can listen to it. This is a work session.
I mean,
But she doesn't have to
clearly
say-
say
right.
you've already addressed it in the new one, and that's fine.
Like this one, yeah.
This one that I have, it talks about the time records.
Okay, just give me chapter and verse on that one quickly.
Part 3, page 3.
All right.
You still have blanks for time records to be submitted.
No, that's all gone. In fact, the time records, I'm sorry, we really got to, that got, thanks to Joe Gell, that got shrunk down from here to there.
Okay.
So it's a much shorter process than before, so you should see that one.
That's going to.
Excellent.
Shelley, you know what, I have a markup from the last time that we made the changes that'll show you exactly what was changed and how.
Yeah, because time records really got squished. reduced?
On part 3, page 4, policy statement, it doesn't mention that a voucher is required for reimbursement. I know
Okay.
it says appropriate documentation.
Just apologize for a minute. Which is the section number that you?
Oh, sorry, 3.5.1, policy statement.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just wondering if, because I had an issue with somebody wanting to know why they should have to take the time to fill out the voucher to get reimbursed, if we should add the words
Oh, I see.
to completed voucher along with the receipts.
Yes, we should.
Complete voucher is required.
Yep.
Okay, yes, one would assume that that's part of required documentation. How about after the word documentation, we do parentheses, e.g., receipt? Or not?
I think we should say completed voucher, corresponding completed voucher and receipts. I mean, that's what we
Let's do
require.
that right now, completed
It
voucher.
was a
and receipt.
10-minute, slightly argumentative phone call as to why they should have to do it.
Because you
I
have,
think you need
Just reading this.
documentation.
All required documentation and corresponding completed voucher and receipts. Vouchers or voucher?
One voucher.
And receipts must be blah, blah, blah.
yes.
Okay,
That would be great, thank you.
just did it.
Moving down to section 3.6.4 under fuel. You mentioned about no gasoline, fuel oil, or motor oil at the town's fuel pump or town garage. We have a maintenance shop and we have like the cemetery shop. Should it be more encompassing all the town facilities instead of just the highway garage?
But isn't that the only place we get fuel from?
But not, there's motor oils and some of the other stuff. I mean, the town pumps. I don't know, I might be being a little bit too picky, but
Well, kind of yes and no, and I just want to point out something when you're looking at this. Where it says was, we didn't make any change from the old book. So we use different things like modifies, or new, or was. So when you see the word was, other than maybe some grammatical changes, nothing. When you see modifies, that means that we changed something. And if you see new, well, it's new language. So this was language that the board did not change, that maybe it should have. And that's actually one of the points that Joe brought up earlier, is that when employees review things, they often find things that should have been changed that weren't. So we didn't make any changes to the current manual when we came to this section 364. So you'd be recommending that it has a little bit more detail.
I'm not sure when we passed the last handbook that we had the cemetery at
Right.
that point in time.
Yeah, right.
We could easily change it to
Sure,
say, town employee may not use gasoline, fuel oil, or motor oil owned by the town for personal use.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe that was the last of my questions.
Thanks, Shelley.
So I'm making that change that Joe just said.
Do you want to go over your changes in a scheduled appointment or your input?
I haven't finished looking at it.
Yep.
I thought it was the other one.
So then let's take your time, go over it, and we can do this with Michael, at a
Yeah, we
date.
can schedule- this has been no inconvenience for me because we had the labor negotiations. Is there any chance we can do this for the 15th of,
Yes,
since I'm down here anyhow?
the 15th of December is when we can meet to go over any input.
Does that work?
Yep,
And substantive issues will be raised with the board.
yes, absolutely.
Can I just ask a simple question?
Yep.
Michael, where you were saying was or new or
Yeah, yeah.
modified, what if there's nothing?
Give me an example. If there's nothing, that's like was.
Okay. Because like, where did I see it?
Uh, Let me give you an example. Often when I use the word was, it might have been in a different place. And so you get the reference going back. So if you're looking at the vehicle usage policy, I think what happens there is if you just go to 507 in the old handbook, none of this got changed.
Michael, if you go to, I'm just picking one at random, because I'm not quite sure how it works myself. Say Part 4, this is the Employee Practices Manual. Part 4, 4.1.2. You have a replace with the first paragraph, but the second paragraph doesn't have anything. Is that
Give me those numbers again, John. I thought you said 4.
4.1.2?
4. Okay, let me scroll back, I'm sorry. That's because where it says employee who has frequent unscheduled absences, that's no change, no change there.
That's no change.
It's the same paragraph number as the old manual.
Yeah, but we did significantly rewrite the unscheduled absence part. The
But
replaces.
where in that first paragraph it says replaces, that may mean there could be some changes in it.
Yes, yes. It not only does it meld 2.1 and 2.2 together, but it also melds it and changes it. So replace means we blew it up and put in new language. Modifies means we tweaked it. Basically, if you take the word literally, that's what we did.
If there's nothing there, it's the same as it was.
Yeah, and again, you can always go for a quick fact check. I tried to be uniform there, but maybe I didn't catch everything.
So are we ready to go on to the next one?
Yep. So we will set up times for the 15th to go over the practices compliance manual.
And how do people get access to comp and benefits so they at least know it?
I'm sorry? The clerks have to send this out to everybody.
And
Yeah,
what version do you have, clerks? Do
You
one?
have to send the most recent version to the clerks?
Yeah, the version that I have is,
I'm gonna send it to you
the
right now.
November 2014. So if you want to email me
But Michael, we may have changes tonight.
Oh, okay, I didn't know we were meeting.
I thought that's what the purpose of this meeting was.
Sorry. Okay, I won't send to them.
Yeah, Michael will send, Joan, I'm relying on you to tell John this, the most up-to-date copies of both, and this has to go out to everybody.
and let everyone know.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'm in my office tomorrow morning, so I'll do it first thing.
It does not have to go out to the highway department, though. Yes, it does.
The Employment Practices Compliance Manual is for all employees. The Compensation and Benefits Manual is not for the union members and employees.
We have a meeting time.
Hmm?
We have a time. For 15.
I think it's not a town board meeting, it's me and Michael
Oh,
with the employees to go over housekeeping and any
We're gonna do
significant
that on the
issues
15th?
will come to you, yeah. Or before, so we could pass it at our 12th.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Or before, so we could pass it at our meeting on the 12th.
You know the date, and I'll put
Yes.
it in the email with the.
Thank you. We'll figure that out. Do you have a date now, Michael?
I can't give you a specific time, but probably the morning of the 5th works.
That's fine.
The late afternoon of the 7th. Because I'm coming back up from Tuxedo Park, I can swing by this way.
How late?
I'll be leaving Tuxedo Park about 1:30, so I'd be here by 2:30.
Morning of the 5th is probably better.
Yep. I need to probably be over in Catskill somewhere around noon, so if we got together, say at 10 o'clock.
Yep,
Does that work?
10 a.m. on the 5th.
So the idea is that Monday morning at 10 o'clock on the 5th, we'll sit down and get feedback on the employment practices compliance manual.
And then at the town board meeting, we'll hear the feedback and act on it.
Yeah, my guess is it'll be changes like what we've just done.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry, I'm having 10 a.m.
So let's do 10 to noon. We won't need that kind of time, 10 to 11:30. Probably don't even need that kind of time.
Should we move to the next manual?
Hold on.
Okay, so are we? Hold on.
Moving on.
Okay,
I think so.
Okay.
sorry, I had a failure here. Okay. I think that we should go through this whole employment practices compliance manual from the top.
Now?
Yeah, with our, no?
You talking about the compensation and benefits
I'm sorry,
manual?
benefits and,
Are we going to do any, so I can hit the off button here, are we going to do anything more on compliance manual? tonight?
no.
So I got the change that Joe gave me, the couple of.
I don't know what did Joe give you?
Oh, it's the typo, employees, it got changed to persons.
It's a minor thing.
Okay,
And then we got these, so I made those minor changes, that's the document I'm going to ship over to the clerks tomorrow.
yes.
And we'll go ahead and put that into export right
Could you copy all of us?
now. Of course.
I might retire this draft. Will you change the date on the front just to say when it
It
was?
says November 29 right now.
Perfect.
Okay. Now we're moving over to the compensation and benefits manual, and I'm also going to call that November 29. Because I meant to change at least the word or two there. So the one you're looking at right now says November 1 on the front page.
Yep.
So now it's going to say November 29, and I'm ready to go.
Okay.
You want to walk through it?
Yep.
Okay, so let's skip part 1, is that appropriate?
Introduction, I think we're good on it.
Let me draw out one thing in particular. Turn to 1.3.3. So
I'm sorry, 1 point what?
1.3.3,
163.
Part 1, page 2.
Yep.
Question came up about certain employees actually going to 40 hours of work because that's what their job requires, and how that impacts on their benefits. Now, we're going to talk about how it impacts on their benefits. That's all addressed there. So the definition of a full-time employee is anybody who works a minimum of 35. That means there might be some people who work more than that. So later on, when we get to the benefits, that being particularly vacation and personal and sick, right? It calibrates for there being variations between 35 and 40. So I just want to show that here's what this language says. It gets dealt with when we actually get to the benefit. that we're
Okay.
talking about.
Michael, in 1.3.2, you got the wrong manual. Right, for purposes of this, it should be compensation and benefits manual.
Got it?
We're over to part 2.
Yes.
I think in 2.2.3, where it says a non-exempt employee is not permitted to work more than 40 hours, I think it should say a non-exempt employee should not work more than 40 hours. Indeed, there may be some exceptions.
How did you, I'm sorry, Joe, can you repeat that? How do you think it should read?
A
Should be.
non-exempt employee should not.
Should not work instead of is not permitted to?
Yeah.
Now, again, this is language that was recommended when we went through this before.
I think to deal with that, we changed the work week so that we've decided that we don't want overtime. So if we start the work week at 12:01 on a Saturday, it can be compensated for on the following Friday.
Yeah, I recall this.
We
Again,
discussed this.
This actually is more of a creation of the board than the consultant here in this case. You
Right,
wanted
but-
to take a very absolute
You didn't
prohibition
want
for
overtime, yeah. So I think what we're saying is we're not paying overtime, so we want the work week to start on Saturday at 12:01, just after midnight on Friday.
And when you hit
So
40
that-
hours, get up and go home.
Yeah, yeah. So you
You know-
start your work week off, and if you accrue overtime, it could be dealt with at the end of the week. You stop your work week
By flex
early.
time.
But again, with all absolute rules, there's always going to be exceptions. And if a person makes a mistake, you still got to pay them.
Well, then it comes to,
If they work. Now, we can put constraints on it, but I think you got to have at least some kind of,
well, it can come to the
out.
board and we can pass by a resolution. Is that
Or
the
it
way
could
to deal with
say-
it?
It could say should not or must not work more than 40 or more than whatever,
Well, yeah.
without.
We can go back into this whole concept here that we talked about overtime. And again, the board decided they wanted
We
to be-
decided that we didn't want it, so.
Is not permitted was your language, not mine. And so if you want to go back and visit this, I mean, we can.
Yeah, I'd like to
Joe's
go
right.
back and
Joe's
visit
right.
it.
You put
I
all
don't-
sorts of constraints around it.
I don't, does anyone want to revisit it, or?
Is the reason why you want to do that, Joe, to make sure that if somebody has to work overtime, they can?
yeah, I don't
And it
know
doesn't
what
have to go before?
I don't know what exceptions. Now, you could say without written permission from the town supervisor or something, where you have some kind of an out from an absolute.
Do you have any recommendations for an out from an absolute, Michael?
Well, you can leave this exact same language and put in a comma and say, unless there is expressed written permission or authorization, I use the word, from the town supervisor.
Or the
without
town board?
express- Without express permission.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
The town board?
Well, the board probably wouldn't have opportunity to meet because this would be happening.
Right, I think town supervisor. I would
Okey dokey,
go
there
with.
you
All
go.
right, so I'm going to borrow what Lee said, without the expressed written authorization
So that could be an email.
from
That's written.
from the town supervisor. It could be an email.
Still in writing. Yep.
Emails count in New York State.
Text.
So that's what I've done, after the parenthesis on Friday, without the express written authorization from the town supervisor.
Then in the next section,
224, flex?
yeah, 224, I would get rid of, the time off must be approved by the appropriate department head. Again, department heads, we narrowly define, and
Supervisor.
Well, I would say that you should really, because this could affect the closing of an office, and you probably shouldn't leave that to the individual employee to make that decision. Otherwise, if I'm the only employee in the office and I'm being required to flex,
right.
I should not be allowed to say, all right, I'm closing down Friday morning. You may want to close down Friday afternoon.
I was thinking more of the supervisor or the liaison or somebody, but
Quite often,
should
there
everything
is no
go to
supervisor.
Elizabeth on flex time? Not a little bit too,
Well, again,
You okay
because
with
it
that?
probably will, because quite often you have one-person offices, you're going to be shutting down an office.
Can you give me an example? Of why, I don't understand. You want to change this to the supervisor?
no, I want
No,
to,
to a.
I just wanna get rid of it.
A lowercase supervisor, and again, most of the employees don't have a lowercase supervisor. And so it comes down, if you have, like, say, in your assessor's office, right, there's the assessor.
So,
They are elected. They don't answer
Yeah,
to
but
us.
they're clerks.
Assessor's aide.
Yeah, so the assessor's aide is be required to flex. And so she decides that she's gonna flex out on a Friday morning, that would shut down the assessor's office. And maybe you would rather have it shut down on Friday afternoon, for a classic example. So this just says the time off must be approved by the appropriate department head. And the reason you have that type of language in there is that You're deciding when they're gonna flex out.
Well, but one of the possible consequences would be that the person wouldn't be taking the time off and have to work more than 40 hours. So it seems like the supervisor needs to be involved either way.
The town supervisor,
Yes,
yeah. Or in the case of the judges, the
the
judges.
uppercase supervisor.
Yeah. The judges, the highway superintendent.
Is
Okay.
that why it's appropriate department head, because it covers all of those?
Yeah, again, let's go back and review who the appropriate department heads are. In this small operation, the appropriate department head is town supervisor, superintendent of highways, town justices, town clerk, or assessors. So the town clerk has a deputy.
Judges, you said judges?
Yeah, so the judges would have the clerk to the court,
Yep.
and the town clerk, of course, would have any deputy.
So the town clerk only answers to the town clerk, not the supervisor?
No, because the town clerk has a supervisor. So this person, because you have an appointed town clerk, who's that person's department head? You are. But the people that are subordinate to the town clerk's office, she is. So town clerk does not necessarily be the top of.
Okay,
Town supervisor, superintendent of highways, and the town justice are all independent elected. The assessors are independent elected, so they don't have a boss other than the public. The town clerk is appointed, so that person still has, if you don't mind me using street talk, a boss. And that person needs to have permission from that boss, because that would be that appropriate.
Yeah, but if somebody, let's take a highway department employee,
Well, they're
Don't
covered by
forget
labor
about- yeah.
contract.
oh, that's right there.
But say, with this new work week and not working more than 40 hours, if an employee works on a Saturday for some reason,
Usually parks or
What?
cemetery. That would be parks or cemetery.
whatever,
Yeah, town
I don't
hall.
know, maybe a town clerk sometimes comes in on Saturday. I have no-
Probably not.
I have no clue, but let's assume, in the next 100 years, there'll always be exceptions. Do they have to get permission to cut back to, during the work week so they don't go for more than 40 hours? Is that considered flex time?
Well, the way that the language has been written, the new language, an exempt employee who would work more than 40 hours in a given work week. This is actually incorrectly written. It's a non-exempt employee. Glad you had me reread this. Because an exempt employee is, of course, somebody who is, they work whatever hours they have to work. And in that case, it's the office manager, the town clerk, and the deputy town clerk are all salaried.
no, the deputy town clerk is not salaried.
Let's go back up to 2.2.3. We said the following titles are exempt: office manager, town clerk, deputy town clerk. You want to change that?
The deputy clerk is hourly.
I am,
All right, so let's go back up on 2.2.3. Actually, let's go to 2.2.2. An employee may occasionally be required to work beyond the employee's scheduled hours of work. However, an employee is not to work additional hours beyond the employee's scheduled work hours without the authorization from the appropriate department head. Now, maybe we want to take that language completely out, because you are actually banning overtime unless it's expressly written by the town supervisor.
Yep,
Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
Because that's really been around there for a while.
So we're just gonna take out
Take out
222?
I would say, and of course, that renumbers everything down to overtime compensation. So overtime compensation would now be called 222. So in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act, non-covered and exempt employees will not be paid for overtime nor receive compensatory time for any hours worked in excess of the employee's normal workday or work week. Classic definition of such a person. So who are those people? We said office manager, town clerk, and deputy town clerk. Is that not what you want?
Deputy clerk is not an exempt.
Okay.
It is it is hourly position.
Okay,
It is a
there goes
full,
delete.
yeah.
Say again?
I am hourly, however,
You're 35 hours, you're a full-time hourly employee. So if you exceed your 35 hours, it's overtime.
Well, you get paid the 36, she can be paid the 36th, the 37th, up to 40. You can't go over 40.
Which is why I've been at 35, and so that I have that.
If it is an hourly, you're not going to be prohibited from working the 36th, 37th, 38th, and 39th, or the 40th hour. You're prohibited from working the 41st hour. So
Can
you
I-
already have 5 hours of extra
Well,
work a
wait,
week
that
you do.
has to be approved because we're not budgeted for that.
Well, again, that comes later, but I use the word prohibited.
Yes, okay. It's not overtime, it's still straight time. That's the delineation.
Can an exempt employee be paid hourly?
Yes,
Why
not
would
the other
you?
way around.
What?
Yes. You can decide to turn all your employees into hourly.
Why would we
Okay,
want?
even,
Anybody.
so
Why
the
would-
fact that somebody is paid hourly doesn't mean they're exempt or non-exempt.
Correct. Yeah, you can take all your exempts and treat them like hourlies, no problem. Give them overtime, no problem. You can't go the other way. Okay, so that second part then, the following titles are quote exempt, office manager, town clerk. Then, a non-exempt employee is not permitted to work more than 40 hours in the established 7-day work week, Saturday through Friday, without the express written authorization from the town supervisor. Then, flex time, of course, be numbered 223. It should say a non-exempt employee who would work more than 40 hours in a given work week must, underscore, take an equal amount of time off in that same work week rather than receiving overtime compensation. The time off must be approved by the appropriate department head. And then we do here, and I haven't read, for example, if an employee who regularly,
Okay, my question is,
Is regularly.
Michael, on that last sentence, what about somebody who works on Saturday or Sunday? They have to work less during the week. Does that have to be approved by the supervisor, or they just take the time off when they want to take the time off?
well, it says the time off must be approved by the appropriate department.
I understand what it says, but my question is, should we strike that? Because
I don't think so, because that way you're allowing that employee to decide when they're going to close down operations.
Yeah, but we've also instructed the employee that he or she has to do it. Now, they have to ask for that particular day. I want to go home early. You know, you may have a number of people.
I'm recommending, yes, that you go to management, let management manage here.
I think it's a little bit too bureaucratic myself, but I don't know what the rest of the board feels like.
I don't think you can let people take off time.
What?
It's never going to happen,
Has
so.
to be coordinated.
What's not?
I mean, everybody here is so thoughtful about covering the town hall, but I agree it's a management decision. I mean, people would never just leave it, and I mean, maybe, you know, I don't know. This place runs really well as long as we sort of let it.
Okay, let's go on. I don't know if anybody has anything before.
Well, I'm actually thinking that I'm going to recommend not to have, for example, because there's just too many.
I think you're right. I think take it out.
We understand, I mean, everybody's listening to this, it's a small shop, we understand how this is going to work, we don't need it, for example. Okay, now, since we're reviewing the book, the next one is no change, I don't believe there's any change been. The personal leave, vacation leave, holidays are included in computing overtime. Sick leave, bereavement leave, jury duty leave, and all military leave is not included this time in computing overtime. I believe that's not a change.
No.
So that gets us into pay period and check distribution. We did work with this a little bit. It shows that the payroll period begins at 12:00 in the morning on a Saturday and ends 14 calendar days later on a Friday at midnight.
Michael, let's go to 311, I don't think we have to go through everything.
Anybody got a question on? Elizabeth, do you want to pass over to point 3?
Yeah, on 311.
Well, Elizabeth had asked me to go through every section, so do you want to pass on that?
I think we need to go through it.
People are going to have to read it anyway. You know, you don't want to drag out the meeting forever.
May I toss out a food for thought? Are we, referring to, taking the time off within the same week or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same pay period?
No, the way the law works for you public sector employees is when you, well, actually this is for any employee, even the private sector, if you adjust your hours of work during the work week, whatever that might be, you just have an established 7-day period. And it does have to be the same for all employees, it has to be the same for each department. So if you set your work week as being Saturday through Friday, that's your work week. So if you move your hours around, I work excess hours on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, so I'm gonna move my hours around later, that's called flex time. When you now move those hours into a second pay week, that's called compensatory time, which is prohibited for hourly workers in the private sector, but allowed for you guys as long as you have a policy. So the difference is the board's saying, no compensatory timing. We're not going to roll this out. We have to flex inside the week. But the stronger statement that they're saying is you're not working over 40 hours. And so if you have some long days, for whatever reason, that might happen during assessment season, it could happen with the justice clerk, it happens. So if I have a load up Tuesday or load up Thursday, that means Friday I got some time off. And one of the reasons they wanted to change things around so that the work week would start on the Saturday, pick up the weekend, think cemetery, and a little bit with the recreation program. For the clerical workers, if you do have that exceptional day, it's probably not gonna happen on a Friday. It's probably gonna happen on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that makes your Friday a casual day.
Unfortunately, more often than not, and speaking for myself primarily, it's an exceptional week. We're a two-person office. If one of us are gone, that makes it an exceptional week. So if someone goes on vacation for a week,
Now, who are those two people?
John and I,
Yeah, but you're both exempts.
She's not exempt.
I'm giving you the example of what I can talk about, which is myself in my office. I can't speak directly for every other office, however, we're all very small offices with a small amount of employees.
Yeah.
When someone goes on vacation for a week, that puts the entire office on the other employee. And if we need to have our office open, the same amount of hours and the same amount of work needs to be accomplished, and there's an extra board meeting thrown in or something happens, you can't always work it within that week.
Well, I would say that that's the time that you go to the town supervisor
Okay.
rather than.
I just wanted to throw that example out there.
Because, as you know, with compensatory time, often what happens is it snowballs. And so this, I would recommend to the board, that when you have those rare moments, that's when you pay overtime.
Yep.
It's the cost of doing business, that's when you pay overtime.
It's just an example.
Because if you float it out, then it's compensatory time's like taking a loan, it never goes away. It snowballs. When are you gonna pay it back? All right, so on the pay period and check distribution, all we did was just really clarify that some people are bi-monthly and some people are
Every 2 weeks.
weekly. Otherwise, no big changes there. Now we get, that completely clears the deck and we get into the big thing about compensation and benefits, that's called paid leave. Quite candidly, other than borrowing some language from the collective bargaining agreement, I don't think we structurally changed anything here.
Michael, in
Correct me.
311, where you have the proration, the proration depends on whether it's a 35-hour week or a 40-hour week.
Those are the two types of employees you have right now.
I think it would be helpful if you had an example with the 35 and the 40, because it's not clear. All it just says is by the average number of hours per week in the previous 12 months. I think you got to say how it's prorated.
Well, you know, I turn over to your bookkeepers right now. This is how you do it now. How do you calculate it out for part-timers? There's no change.
If the town board hires somebody at 20 hours a week, they get 20 hours vacation for that week. If they're a
For that
35-hour full-time employee, they have 35 hours per week vacation.
Yeah, now, if you have a part-timer that was hired to be a 20-hour person, but they're actually clicking in about 16 on average, do you put that down to 16?
I don't know.
Because the language that's always been in there, a part-time employee will be credited with paid vacation leave in accordance with the vacation schedule below, prorated by the average number of hours the employee works. Now, we added language to make it clear, per week in the previous 12-month year.
I
So you
don't,
do a look
I
back.
don't think that we have anybody working under what they're, I mean, work the opposite. I mean, we're lean and mean here,
Yeah, and
so.
if you worked them up,
there's-
they should get more time. And that's what this would say is, kind of, you remember how we did on that one arbitration award or whatever it was, consent award, where we have to look back and do an average? It'd be kind of like that on your part-timers, you look back. Now, if they were averaging 20, no problem. But what if they were averaging 25? They would actually be due a little bit more vacation time, according to this language. Is that a problem?
It's a little time consuming.
I,
3 or 4 employees?
you know what? I think we're fine. I don't see this as an issue.
When the board adopts the budget, it says this part-time employee is 20 hours a week.
And they stick
That's
that
what
way.
we've always based it on.
Yeah. Well, because the language, I would say, it would be prorated by the average number of hours the employee works. I'd say prorated by the average number, by the number of hours the employee is scheduled to work. There's different language there that I use for that. And again, you had this language in your own book, and we clarified it by saying we're gonna do a look back. But again, what you often see with your part-timers, if I hire you as a 20, you're a 20. If I hire you as a 16, you're a 16. And if you work up or below that, I don't care, I hired you as a 16. And so the language would read differently, would see prorated by the number of hours the employee is scheduled to work, or regularly scheduled to work.
Let's say the employee is regularly scheduled to work 15 hours
Then,
a week. How do we do the proration? What's the math?
well, they get, because you do this by days, not hours, they get whatever, for example, if they're working 15 hours per week, they would get 15 hours of vacation. When they get around to their second.
15 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they wouldn't work for a week on their vacation.
Right.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to take a whole week off, but they get 15 hours of vacation. that
They'd
next
get
year.
paid for 15 hours.
And then year 2, they get 30, and after 8, they get, help me with my head math, 45. And then eventually, after 12 years, if they're still around, they're going to end up having 60 hours of paid leave.
Well, I guess what I find confusing is the chart is talking in terms of
It
days.
does because you have a
And
variety.
I
of work.
understand why. That's why I think we ought to have an example.
Well,
Wait,
again,
wait.
I took your existing handbook and tweaked it. This is not how I normally write this. I didn't write your existing handbook. Somebody wrote it that actually took my model language and tempered with it. Now, how I usually have this is I have a column. I have a column for the 35 people, and I have a column for the 40 people in the solid hours. And then it says part-timers, it says prorated with 35 or 40 equal to 100%, as the case may be. Now, you can figure that out. If 40 equals 100% and I'm working 20, I'm at 50% of 100%, right? So that's how I normally write it. You've always had it in here, and this is how you've been administrating it for the longest time. It's 5, 10, 15, and 20. What is 5, 10, and 15, 20? Well, it depends. A week is a week to a 15 person, 15 hours. To a 30, it's 30 hours. To a 40, it's 40 hours. So it all works out, this is how you do it. And I mean, Shelley, tell me, I mean, it's never been a problem, right? You know how to calculate this, right?
Correct, I've always done the vacation time based on what is approved in the budget. That's what they're supposed to be working, that's the number of hours vacation they would get.
And that's why I'm saying that up there on 311, to correctly change this so you don't have to do a pro rata on a look back. The language up under the full-timers, it says, on the average number of hours an employee is normally scheduled to work. I would take out all that reference to average normal of hours, and I would just say based on the hours the employee is scheduled to work.
Which is what we do. And there's no issue.
So if a person works 35 hours, he gets the same, or she gets the same vacation as somebody who works 40 hours.
Nope.
They get paid for 35 hours.
One gets 35 hours, one gets 40 hours.
But
Well,
when
it's
you
a
look at the
week.
chart, it's in terms of days.
One's got a 7-hour day, one's got an 8-hour day.
Their days are different.
The second paragraph says prorated, so I think that's why, where I've always pointed to people and say, you don't get 5 days, you get prorated to the number of hours you're scheduled a week. I mean, it would definitely, if there's a way of changing it to make it be equivalent,
Well, I mean-
prorated, but everybody has so many different hours, you would have,
I mean, if somebody works 15 hours a week and they work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 5 hours each day, then their vacation is 15 hours. They can take off 3 Mondays in a row, or a Monday in a row.
they get 15 hours, whether they do, that you can do it like in half-day increments, I think
Okay.
it is.
Yeah.
So we just track it by hours, not by, because some people work 2 7-hour days and 1 5-hour day.
Okay,
So we go.
Shelley's got this,
35
guys.
okay. We
She's
got
all over it.
Hey, very good.
She
I'm
does.
impressed.
Whenever we have to figure it out, I
No.
call her up, she gives me the numbers.
She's all over it.
Just change the paragraph to say, see Shelley.
Well,
Shelley,
okay, what I have done is both of these are going to be reading prorated by the number of hours the employee is scheduled to work each year,
each week, each
year,
year.
actually each week.
About a week.
Can we turn the page?
Yeah.
Make us multiply by 52 and then divide by 52.
Are we turning the page now, Michael?
I am.
Okey dokey. Termination, are we good with that? Are there any issues with termination?
Shelley's got a question.
Just a quick question about the credit of the vacation. I know it says in here it's on the anniversary date, but the practice has always been January 1st is when everybody gets their vacation time. So can we change that to be that, or
Yeah, it's a whole different set of language.
just so that we're consistent, that's okay with the board? 'Cause
That's
it's-
fine, let's leave it how it's always been.
Consistent with reality, in other words.
Yes.
Well, no, actually, we
Well,
need to
the
put this in
problem-
here. Hold on.
Hold
What
on.
if the employee leaves in the middle of the year?
They get
Uh,
a cakewalk.
That's what?
They get, if somebody leaves before they're, let me just say this differently. It really doesn't matter after an established employee is there, if you do it on January 1st. The question is, when do I get my bump?
The bump comes on the anniversary.
Yeah, so often the language that we write here is that everybody gets everything on January 1st. So I'm an unlucky guy. I never win the lottery. I got hired in November. You're very lucky. You always win the lottery. You got hired in February. So when it comes to 8 years of service, no, I'm the lucky guy this time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you won the lottery.
I
Yeah.
did this intentionally. She gets credited with her 15 days on January 1. She's worked exactly 8 years and 1 month. And me, actually, I said that backwards, she's worked 7 years and
Ugh.
11 months.
Right.
Me, I worked 7 years and 2 months. I also get it on January 1st. And actually, after a while, when employees are established, it just
It just
doesn't.
doesn't matter.
And when people do that, first of all, the best way to do this is an accrual system where you earn paycheck to paycheck. That's not what you're doing here. So you're doing really the simplest way possible.
And we're not
is
going,
you-
we discussed that and we're not doing it.
You sit down on
yeah.
January 1st, you look at everybody, you load them up. Now, so I could do this, I could write this language that is credited on January 1st, and that you're credited with the paid leave on the January 1st preceding your anniversary date.
And then it would just be a matter of, if they earn a third week because they've completed 8 years, they would get the third week on the anniversary
Lucky
for
you.
that first year.
No, on January 1st.
That would be changing our policy.
Everybody would get loaded on. What this allows the clerk to do is that third week in December, when you've done all your Christmas shopping, you have a few extra moments, you sit down, you look at everybody's vacation for the coming year and load them up for January 1.
Is
So
that-
one-time
is that
load.
what you do now?
We
She
currently,
does it except for unless they're in a,
a bump year
A
where
bump
they
year.
get an additional week, that we give them on the anniversary when it's,
now here's where that's kind of a peculiarity, because you ask them also to use their time up by January 1st. So if I get my anniversary in November, you're giving me exactly 1 month to take my vacation at a time where I don't want to take vacation.
typically when there's a hire after like that last 2 months, it's been a conversation with the supervisor.
Yeah, so-
Can we extend that 5 days, a couple
So
of months?
this is one of the reasons we say that you do your entire loads on January 1st, and the bumps happen on January 1st preceding your anniversary. That way it's just taken care of.
If the board's okay with that change, that's different than what we're currently doing it, that's fine
It
with me.
makes it easier, because you sit down at one time and you look at all your benefit eligible employees, you load them up for January 1st and you're done.
When's your anniversary?
What's that?
What month is yours?
July,
Oh, you're right in the middle.
right in the middle.
Well, and she also has 6 months to use up her extra week of vacation that she gets. But you've been here so long, you don't have any more extra weeks, do you?
I have no more extras.
We're
I'm
talking,
next.
we're talking to people where it's like,
Do you want to do that? Do you want to just make this a January 1st?
You guys all right with that?
Yeah.
Did you see any issues?
You okay?
If you're, other than you're giving it to the employees before they complete that 8th year of service,
Yeah, slightly before.
slightly before.
Again, if you're a February person, it's a month early. If you're an
Hey, it's- I
October
think it's
person,
fine.
nice.
It's fine.
That's good.
Okay.
So here's the way it reads. In the title, allowance bracket credited on January 1st. An employee will be credited with paid vacation leave on the January 1st preceding the employee's anniversary date of hire.
They just pointed out to me, if somebody is working on that first year of service, would they get that January 1st, or should that be on the anniversary?
Like, we just hired new people. So in January, are they gonna get that 1 year anniversary, vacation already?
Under this scenario,
they would get it in November or October of the next year anyway.
Because they won't even be off of their temp, whatever that's.
well, again, it gets in,
Probationary period.
what is the standard practice, if you looked at your neighbors, at least the neighbors of yours that I've worked with, people get vacation from day one. You got kids, who wants to wait a whole year with no vacation? This is still an old practice, you gotta be around a year before you get your vacation. So at least if you do the January 1st load, now if I got hired on January 1st, I'm gonna wait a year. If I got hired on July 1st, I'm only gonna wait 6 months. If I got hired in November, again, I'm lucky. I like the accrual system. It's tied to payroll. You don't even have to keep track of it. You just have to put a number into payroll. You take your allowance for the year, you divide it by 26 pays, and every pay period you get it. There's no use it or lose it. You accrue, just like sick leave. Works just like sick leave. You build up the bank.
So if somebody's hired
And
in,
that's,
Well,
and
hold
you
on
say
one
that's
second,
difficult.
Joe.
The state of New York has been doing this for 30 years. And it's really, this is an old mom and pop system. This is not what's recommended by HR.
Could you do the accrual system, Shelley?
It works just like sick leave.
Or is it two?
I guess I'm not quite understanding.
So somebody's gonna get 2 weeks. Every pay period they get, let's say the pay period is.
10 minutes every pay
They take
period.
26 into 80. That's how much you get every period.
1/26 of 2 weeks, 1/26 of 10 days.
Yep.
And you add that to their accrual every pay period.
And they're allowed to build it up and use it as they need it. And so if you zero yourself out, then you're gonna have to build your bank back up, just like sick leave. If I zero myself out, I gotta build my bank back up. Like sick leave, there's a maximum accumulation. Like vacation, we usually allow you not to carry more than 4 weeks around at any one time. So if you get up around 4 weeks, you gotta start burning your vacation back up. But it's constantly fluid. There's no beginning and ending date. There's no December 31st, use it or lose it, because it's just fluid. Dates don't mean anything any longer. Along comes my anniversary date, and my accrual rate, instead of being at 3.18 hours per pay period, it jumps up to, I'm making up this number, 4.22 hours per pay period.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to sound like this is revolutionary stuff. This has been done by the state of New York for the past 30 years. It's been done by most of my clients.
Ours is a little rigid. Our system now is a little rigid, and
It's a
everyone's
user list.
worried, and it's like that.
Causes bottlenecking. And again, once you have the accrual system, it's a payroll function. It's no longer a
Yeah.
crediting function.
So somebody that gets 2 weeks a year accrues in 26 pay periods. Each pay period, they pick up 5 plus a fraction hour.
Now, if you want to now, just go ahead and do it this way, but you might want to consider going over to an accrual system. But back over to your question, they have these new hires. And again, what staggers this is, think about it. It's an old mom and pop operation sometimes when you say, you don't get any benefits here until you've been around for a year. If you're a family with some kids, what, you can't take vacations with your kids for a year?
Yeah, that kind of is
But
terrible.
if somebody's hired in December, first year, they would get 5 days the next year?
I think they should get 5 days from the first day they come into work for you. Vacation time is time to spend for your family. Why is somebody waiting a year to get vacation time?
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
I
You
get
know,
consultants are supposed to have opinions like that.
I've seen it happen here in practice, and it was brutal to watch.
People not
Yeah,
being allowed to take
Yeah.
time off for their family.
yeah.
I took a job with you for $15 an hour, and I can't take a vacation for a whole year.
We're a salaried position, for example. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
but you're getting the vacation based upon the same as somebody who worked for a whole year. It's the same
No, but if you do
vacation.
accrual, then it is fair.
Well-
Or instead of upon 1 year of service, you get your 5 days. On the first day of hire, you get 5 days. Now, you can tell the person, I'm going to give you 5 days, I'm not going to let you use it for the first 3 months. You know, I don't even know why you do that. I mean, like, if you made a bad hire, you made a bad hire, shame on you. An employee comes in here, they should get their medical insurance, they should have some leave time, they should have a life. They come to work for you. And somehow you put them in some sort of substandard probationary period for a while.
Would it make sense?
Really old
When you
school.
say it like that,
It's really
it
old
sounds
school. But
heinous.
it's really, I mean, HR doesn't recommend this stuff.
It is rigid, and it's punishing, and a lot of people come to us midlife, career changes.
No
So
vacation
you're saying to them, sorry,
I mean,
The state's been doing it for a long time. I know that, because I know that
30
we get
years.
paid. I mean, every week that we work, we accrue.
Right.
That is how it works.
This way it works. It's a great system.
It is a great system.
I think-
Control your
It's
time.
based on how your work, how much you work.
Yeah,
Is it software that we would have to get to do this, or?
payroll.
no, we have the software.
Yeah. And it would take, then you wouldn't even have to do it January 1st?
I mean, again, I have clients that still have backload and front-load systems, but I'd say 80% of my clients are on accrual-based. It's all done by the payroll system.
I would rather do accrual unless you
Yeah.
see some
Me too.
reason
Now,
why we
I
shouldn't.
don't want to get too long-winded about this anymore, but I will have to work with someone here for a transition period. Because if somebody has zeroed out, you want to, you have to come up with a mechanism as a phase-in. Now, I'm not talking a long time. This takes about 6 or 7 months to phase in. So on
Everybody
January-
will,
on January
everybody will
1st
have been zeroed
on
out at the
January
end of
1st,
this
how-
year.
January 1st, everybody gets zeroed out, but they get loaded, right?
Everybody gets loaded, right, we close it out December 31st, loaded January 1st.
So there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either go ahead and let them, everybody has to borrow their first 6 months of accruals. You understand what I'm saying? Or you say you don't have to borrow it, but what you do, on the accrual system, you can't borrow. Just like on sick leave, I can't borrow sick leave. I can't say.
But because everybody's zeroed out, you want them to start with something in the bank.
Yes.
I think you have
Now, there's
to.
two ways. You can force them to front load, I misspoke there. You can force them to borrow the first 6 months of accruals. Or you can say, I'm not gonna force you to do that, but if you need to take a vacation, I'm going to let you borrow for the first 6 months. After the first 6 months, you can't borrow because now you've earned that, you don't need to borrow any longer. But you have to have a phase in.
I think we have to do that. I
And
mean,
I
this
don't have
is,
to put I don't have to put the phase in into your
System.
policy. What I'm saying,
What?
don't put your phase in into your policy. Don't
No.
do that.
No.
I'll just sit down and work with you on how to do a phase in. Again, I've done this a lot.
Does that sound all right?
Because you don't want to put a person into, they got plans, they want to go someplace and they can't go.
No, but we would work that out, yeah.
Okay, I'll devise an accrual schedule.
Cool.
And then start
Accrual.
from day one.
Accrual.
Maybe we should give Shelley a chance to think about whether that's really going to change or
Hold on, Donna.
make it more difficult.
Hold on.
Can we accrue as much as we want, so?
Yes, they're net.
Well,
Like,
usually,
we're all over the 12 years.
Right.
usually you.
Hold on, Michael.
Usually they put in
Michael.
something like 160 hours is the maximum accrual.
4 weeks.
Well, yeah,
Well, what do you do with the extra time?
you lost me there.
There,
You lose it if you don't use it?
Yeah, I think you
When you
did.
hit 4 weeks?
no.
After 160?
In this,
Well, no, you have to take your vacation.
So you lose it or use it?
Yeah.
So there's still a lose it or use it component.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's after a certain number of hours.
You set your threshold high, though. So like, let's say and you also, you put a fail-safe in here. So you don't want your employees walking around with more than 4 weeks of vacation in their pocket. You know, because the idea of vacation is you're supposed to be taking vacation. Yeah, it's good for you and it's good for the boss too, right? So I'm letting my time build up to 160 because I want to take a 2-week vacation and I still want to have 80 sitting back in case something comes up. So I'm right up to my 160 and I'm getting ready to go on vacation and something happens personal in my family, or maybe that cruise that I planned got canceled because the ship sunk or something like that, I don't know what. But no fault of my own, I can't go on that vacation. You put in a fail-safe so that you can have a rollover. Because again, nobody wants to take somebody's vacation away. But then on the other hand, don't walk around with 160 hours in your pocket. You're supposed to be taking vacation. So again, it's a kind-hearted approach. The accrual system is a win-win for everybody. The employee controls their time. A young employee never gets 3 weeks until they've been around here for so long a period of time. And if they really wanted to do something special, their family, their sisters are going on a cruise, and I can go on this cruise, but I only got 2 weeks vacation. You can save up your time and get that 3rd week and go as long as the boss can afford to let you to go out. So you're in control of your time, and the employer doesn't get into this bottleneck of the January or the December crunch, because December 31st no longer means anything. And again, you've worked under this system.
Yeah.
People get crazy about the end of the year
everybody
stuff.
System.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It sucks
I think
about
this
it.
would,
Employees will love it.
what?
What is it?
Nothing, because we've already budgeted for it. Your whole salaries are in there every
It's
year.
already there.
Yeah, it's there.
Vacation time's
It's
already
there.
It's just a-
Doesn't matter, it's in the budget, it doesn't matter when you take
You're
it.
compensated. You're compensated for 52 weeks.
Right, it's there, and I have accrued my 4 weeks, and I've used one, and we're into next budget year.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because they budgeted you for 52 weeks no matter what.
There's no extra
Now,
time.
If you were selling
I
that.
think it sounds great, I just.
If you were selling that time back, now you've added the 53rd week, but you're not selling that time back.
Joan, is your problem is that you don't know if you can take
That's-
the extra 3 weeks vacation in this year? Is that your issue?
We had to do this. This
actually
was an
don't have an issue.
John
I
never said that.
think actually the accrued time sounds fantastic.
You know,
My question was, what will happen, for the board and budget purposes? Would it cause, well, basically, It would be, you would have money left over this year and
No,
next year's a new budget, new salaries.
They pay you for 52 weeks whether you work or not.
Okay.
It's good. So in that second year, instead of, if you decide to take more vacation in year 2 than year 1, they're still only paying you for 52 weeks. You're just giving them less productivity. So in year 1, you gave them more productivity and less leisure. In year 2, you took more leisure and gave them more productivity. They still paid you for 52 weeks.
In a corporate environment, though, it costs money to have people carry a vacation over because it's got to be accounted for.
In a corporate.
Yeah.
What do we have, 10 part-time employees here
Well,
and 5 full-time?
Basically, on the accrual system, if you wanted to ledger it, you would assume that everybody was carrying 4 weeks.
Well, but this says there is no carryover from year to year.
That changes because you go to the accrual system.
So you're going to change that?
Yeah, because
So you're going to allow carryover from year to
well,
year?
no, on an
No.
accrual system, carryover has no meaning.
It caps it at 140
Yeah,
hours.
there's no such thing as
And then there's a
carryover.
fail-safe. It's like funds balance.
So,
It's always going out and coming
The
in.
concept of December 31st, and the concept of carryover, that whole concept is gone. It doesn't exist. It's a fluid system, just like sick leave. Sick leave, you earn your sick leave month to month. This is gonna be paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you want to, you can do the accrual system month to month. So, some of my clients do that, so that on the first of the month, you look at your sick leave, you look at your vacation. And in some ways, that's kind of nice because you're not dividing by 26, you're dividing by 12. So you could either do the accrual system paycheck to paycheck, or you could do it month to month.
It's still fractions.
so on retirement, we would pay for unused vacation time?
Well, in retirement, you pay them what's in their banks no matter what. So same there. There's no
So
change.
somebody can accrue a lot of vacation time.
You cap it at 100, you
And
cap it at 160.
cap it at,
At 4 weeks.
oh, so we're capping, there is a cap?
Yes, it's a cap.
Yeah. And you had a cap of probably 4 weeks, right?
Yeah, well, it's a numerical cap, I think, like maybe 200 hours.
Yeah, that'd be 5 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah. We don't have a mandatory rule about vacation. In other words, you have to take at least a week every year or 2 weeks every year.
Let's look at scheduling down there, Alan. I don't think so.
Thought there was something previously, but, you know, we're revamping this whole thing.
No,
Have we turned the page yet?
no, the only restriction you have is prior approval and half-day increments.
Did we turn?
And you can't accrue more than you said,
Typically, most of my clients go with 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, again, that has a different meaning. If you're a 35-hour employee, it's 140 hours. If it's, again, I'm gonna give you 2 columns here.
So
You're
let,
gonna
you're,
see
you're gonna
accrual-
come back, I'm circling this,
You're gonna see
and you're
accrual for
coming back to
35,
us.
Accrual for 40, and prorated on the fails. And I'll sit down with you and help you with the implementation.
Yeah, I just can't wrap my head around it.
It's all right.
It's confusing.
You're off the clock anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where it goes snap and you
You
get the
are?
whole thing all at once.
We're here as
Right.
individuals, we're not here as employees.
Yeah, no, we're all punched out.
We're all punched.
Should they be punched out to be here?
What?
They're not on the clock being here.
Well, no,
No. They're not here to staff, right? You're here
Right.
as beneficiaries.
Okay.
Be over 40 if you were.
Have to fix up, have to take
And I'd
time
have to
off.
give you approval, written approval.
You should like that, because then you take Friday afternoon
Okay,
off.
let's, come on.
All right,
Let's,
termination.
termination of
No
employment.
change there.
Okay. Wow.
Holidays, no significant change there.
Well, we did, we
Well,
changed Columbus Day.
It's not
Well,
called
we
indigenous.
Right.
branded it appropriately to Indigenous Peoples' Day.
It's a great idea.
The floating
Indigenous
holiday,
Peoples' Day.
the floating holiday is in here, very, very well described. So in addition to the holidays above, there's that floater. Prior approval must be used in whole day increments, and you can't accumulate.
Is that because you?
Wait, our designated holidays, can you read them off, Michael?
Starting from the beginning of the year, New Year's, then MLK Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day.
Yep.
And then we get into the fall months, starting in October with Indigenous Peoples' Day, which is the second Thursday of every October, also coincides with what some people call Columbus Day. Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, day after Thanksgiving, then there's the 3 hours on Christmas Eve, and then there's Christmas Day itself. In addition to that, there is the floating holiday, and that is for front-loaded on January 1st. Employers, you got to get your department head to sign off on it. It has to be in a whole day increment, and you can't accumulate it. You have to use it.
Right?
Okay.
Okay, so there's a floating holiday. Is there a time that we need to use it? I mean,
Yeah,
Mike-
you'd have to use it
Michael
up by the end of the year. So you get credit
Oh,
on January
okay.
1, you got the whole year to use it. Again, you can't accumulate it. You got to use it or lose it.
okay.
It has no conversion, like personally converts into sick leave, none of that. You got, it's use it or lose it.
Okay,
And it's a whole day.
let's move on. Holiday pay.
Usually you take it on your birthday or something like
You have the day after Thanksgiving as a holiday.
That's a
And then you have it as the floating holiday.
No, we crossed it off where it says underneath the floating holiday.
We changed day after Thanksgiving to a floating
So
holiday.
it's crossed off from where it begins, which can be used, all the way down to Christmas period. That whole rest of that sentence was taken out and replaced with as of January 1st, with one floating holiday as of January 1st, period.
that. But they still get day after Thanksgiving.
Right, that we kept that, yeah, that's why I put step there, because I
Because
crossed it off. the first
didn't they have
one.
2 floating days or something like that?
No, we
No.
had one and we had Good Friday.
Good Friday, and we
That's
took
the
away
difference.
Good Friday.
That's the difference.
It's a cap.
So actually, then, day after Thanksgiving is fixed,
Correct.
and Good Friday is floating. That's what's happening.
And we have Indigenous Peoples' Day.
And actually, what happens with
That
the
is
floater,
awesome.
people use it for, if they have a different religious calendar, they use it for that, or if they want to use it for their birthday or something like that. It's just-
Okay, holiday pay.
No changes here, I don't
Okay.
know, no.
So let's turn the page.
Yeah, I think it's in the sick leave, and I don't know if we did much changing there. It's still a day per month.
On 335, that example, I'm not sure I understood it. This 1.5,
What are you talking about, Joe?
the second paragraph under 3.3.5. An employee may take sick leave only after, the credit sick leave may not be used in increments less than an hour. For example, if an employee leaves work an hour and a half early, such, and I guess you need the word employee, will be paid for 2 hours of sick leave
They'll be
credit.
charged, should be charged 2 hours of sick leave.
Okay, charge. So they only left an hour and a half early, but we're gonna charge them for 2 hours. However, if an employee
Yeah,
leaves,
there's, I have no idea why this typo is sitting there. It's backwards.
if an employee leaves work 45 minutes early, such an employee will be paid for the 45 minutes, but the employee's sick leave credit will be reduced by an hour?
Yeah, I think,
There's a major typo. That's actually completely backwards. They're paid for 1.5 hours, but their sick leave is credit charged for 2 hours.
yeah.
Wow.
I would say it
I'm
differently. I'd say
embarrassed,
they're-
I'm embarrassed about that mistake.
Well, in both cases, the employee's paid for the full day, but their sick leave is charged in one case for 2 hours, the other case for
Yeah,
10
my second example I got correct, but the first example, I crossed hairs there. You see what I did?
Yep.
So the 1.5 and the 2 are inverted. The second example is correct. You're
Okay.
paid for the 45, but you're charged an hour.
Right, but what you really mean is they're paid for the full day because they already worked the rest of the
Right.
day.
Right. But your credits are going to be reduced.
Right, by
I hate when I make mistakes.
Can I ask the reason you do?
Yeah, it's a matter that people don't shave off time just because they want to get off again, when people leave 15 minutes before the workday, or they come in 15 minutes late or something like that, is to say, listen, you know, you need to plan your time a little bit better.
But if an employee has a doctor's appointment at 3:00, and they have to leave at 2:30 in order to get there,
Yeah, they should make their doctor's appointment at 3:30.
oh, really? Oh, really?
Let me introduce you to Dr. Jeff, he'll cooperate.
So instead of
Sure.
leaving at 2:30, leave at 2:00.
Right,
And you go out and have
Yeah, no,
lunch.
actually, here again, I have to say, this was your policy. This example is
Right.
just to show you how it works. So,
Right, no, I know it was, I'm just trying to understand.
you know, I have to say that a lot of places, most of my clients and even others that I come across, there are requirements that you use your leave in half-hour, hour increments, sometimes 15-minute increments, and it's just to stop shading, as we call it. Is that, sometimes, what's that old adage, you know, your nose for your face, whatever. It's
All
one of
right,
those
let's
things.
push on
Cuts both
through.
ways.
Let's, next,
Yeah, just.
notification of sick leave.
Yeah, on
Anything?
that 337, you gotta notify the department head. I think that ought to be the immediate supervisor.
Again,
That's
there's only
a-
one or two employees that have an immediate supervisor.
What?
There's only one or two employees that have an immediate supervisor.
Say a camp counselor gets sick, and you
Camp
should call the
counselors- camp counselors don't get leave.
so,
That's right.
so no, or say,
The only example would be the guy you have working in parks, the cemetery,
okay.
the two people.
Now, should he have to notify the supervisor, or?
If that person's not coming into work that day, they're supposed to notify their appropriate department head. But
Or if he's, gets sick in the middle of the day and wants to go home?
supposed to notify his employee.
Be nice, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we actually, we talked about this at great length when we did
Never
the
gotten
policy,
notified
because
of
this is
anything.
all new. It says new.
Yeah, I think it's very cumbersome in that, it should be the immediate supervisor.
They should call it some sick.
Yeah, all I say is we went over this extensively last time.
I would drop the phone if somebody called to say that. I wouldn't, I would be like, who?
Who is this?
I wouldn't admit it in public.
Hey, we up to personal leave?
Yep.
I thought, we're front-loading this January 1st, which is common practice. New employees get it prorated by the number of months they're going to work in that year. There's no accumulation, and unused gets rolled into, it's not use it or lose it, it's use it or convert it. The requirements, let's see if I screwed up my requirements here on this one.
Didn't we have an issue?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
If you look at my example on use it personally, if I got it right, if I had it wrong, it's the same example. So I don't see anything significantly different here, nothing.
Didn't
This
we
is
have-
one place where we did say that an employee must receive prior approval from the appropriate department head or supervisor to take personal leave. The department head or supervisor will have total discretion. So this is one place where the lowercase supervisor comes in.
Didn't we have an issue with loading everything, this on January 1st, in that an employee gets the 3 days, but say leaves in February?
Yeah, well, that's,
Didn't we once,
well, first of all, as you might recall, that I said that, first of all, it's the best practice on vacation is the accrual system. The best practice on sick leave is month-to-month accrual, and the best practice on personal leave is your front load on January 1st. Now, the reason that's the best practice is personal leave is not personal leave, it's personal business leave. And you never know when your personal business is going to happen. I mean, what do you use personal business for? You use it for bank closings, depositions, to be really kind of simple about it. If a cable guy's coming by, it has to be somebody over the age of 18 that's there. That's what personal leave is for. That may happen in January, that may happen in September. You have no idea what happens, so that most HR departments front load their personal leave on January 1st. If somebody is going to leave in March and they find a lot of personal business to do in January, February, and March, yeah, they got their 3 days. That happens. But you're looking at what is this benefit there for? Vacation is for going out and enjoying yourself or doing all the chores that you never got done. Sick, we understand what that's for. I can't come to work. And personal is personal business. Stuff happens in my life that I have to take care of and I still want my paycheck. That's why we do these things. And these are universal practices that are out there, particularly in the public sector.
Turning the page.
Your bereavement leave, you have the three days from the date of death until the burial. It's not offered to anybody who's been here for less than 6 months, so they'd have to take unpaid leave. And the immediate family is defined as spouse, domestic partner, child, step and foster, parent or legal guardian, sibling, grandparent, grandchild, spouse's parents, child spouse. Child spouse is also known
You
as.
might as well wait just a moment because she's talking.
Sorry?
I didn't want you to miss what he was saying, so I just had to wait for a moment.
I think I've been over about 19 times, but the bereavement, yeah.
Child
But
spouse
thanks.
is also known as son-in-law and daughter-in-law. Now, I say that the CBA has sister, brother-in-law. We're in negotiations with them on.
Whatever, in this instance, would you say it would match the CBA?
I think that you would come back and have a
And-
resolution to modify it. Again, you can modify this anytime.
This is the one that says for purposes of bereavement leave?
Yes.
Because I have, my notes in the margin says that what we discussed was follows same as union contract.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Collective
Oh, got it,
bargaining,
okay.
collective bargaining
Oh,
agreement.
that's what that, okay, got it.
So there may be an opportunity here, and maybe, actually only here, I think.
Sorry?
I think this might be the only section where there wouldn't be and so you would come back sometime in January and modify this. And again, that's one of the reasons I like that you put this in parts, page 7, because you only have to read
All right,
one page.
we bought that. We like that idea.
So-
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, oh yes, there's one issue here. Go ahead.
On every other one of our leaves, we just have to contact our department head. For additional bereavement leave, we have to write to our department head.
No,
Yeah,
I
well-
think you have, all your leave you have to contact. You have to have prior approval.
You know, this is in writing though.
If this says in writing,
Can't you just contact, because if someone's lost a spouse,
Right.
you're asking them to write a letter.
yeah.
Like, that kind of, is there anything I can do for you? Do you want me to write the letter to, for, you know?
Under section
It's not very
3.5.2,
sensitive,
line 3.
So are you suggesting it should read the request must
Just not in writing.
Not in writing, but
be submitted, that's it?
Ask your ask your department head or supervisor.
Okay, so just cross off in writing?
talk
Yeah.
to your department head,
Yeah.
something like
Must be made
Well,
to the appropriate
Must be
department
made.
head.
Here, what I'm looking at, this is for additional leave.
Oh,
Yeah.
additional bereavement leave.
Yeah, but
because-
if you,
Because actually for bereavement leave, you don't have to ask anybody. Anytime between
It's
the
just
date of the death and the day after the burial, you take it. It's there for it.
Is-
This is for, an employee may receive an unpaid leave of absence or use vacation leave credits or personal leave credits to extend the bereavement leave due to the death of the
Yeah, it's
family.
additional.
The request must be submitted, we can take out the in writing, but again, you, make this clear, for the core 3 days, you don't have to ask anybody.
we just want to change submitted in writing to
To
must
made.
be
Sure.
made to.
So I just want to make it clear that you don't have to ask permission for the first 3 days.
Right, we know that, we're good. We might-
I was thinking, what? You don't have to ask permission.
And the 3 days ends on the
Internment.
after the
or
day of
memorial.
burial?
Or the memorial services, the case may be. I mean, some places, they decide to have a memorial service.
What if it's more than 3 days?
And we just let it go.
Well, it's any 3 days they're allowed off. So,
That interval.
But if it's more than 3 days, then
Well,
they have to ask for the additional, and it'll be
Well,
unpaid.
Again, the only way an employee, I want to be absolute, an employee may never go in unpaid status. They are AWOL at that point, and they're risking losing their job. So you cannot put yourself in unpaid status, except here. That unpaid leave, you have to come to the board and get the board to allow you to take an unpaid leave of absence. This is the one time where you can go to your department head and say, listen, this horrible thing has happened, I need to go. I don't want to use my leave credits, my vacation, or my personal, maybe because I don't have them, or maybe I just don't want to use them. I want to use that for a happy time. So I want to take an unpaid leave for a couple weeks, may I? And the department head could say, get out of here. This is the one time where you don't have to come to the town board for an unpaid leave. It's the only time. And understandably why.
Everybody good with it?
Yep.
Next. Short-term disability, we took it all out. And we took it out,
You still have your worker compensation part,
right,
but you don't have your short-term disability.
like I just said.
On 4, 2, I guess, 1, we took out thereafter the employee who is receiving short-term disability payments under this plan, and we took that out because there is no short-term.
No, you're gonna dump your short-term disability program. And the reason is
We
that
took it all
You
out.
have a self-insured program now, it's called sick leave.
Medical, dental, vision.
You have to remember to notify the insurance company to no longer have the short-term disability.
Shelley?
We continue,
What date?
January 1st.
yeah, now, except for the highway guys. So the highway will be the only insured group.
Will they let us cancel some of the employees? I thought it was an all or nothing.
They allow it in that type of a situation because there's a clear,
Because
it's all or
we-
nothing in a highway, yeah. I mean, you can't, so you can have a group, but you can't carve up your group.
Is it the union group or the highway group?
It's the union group. Well, first of all, your highway superintendent would be in it. If you've been paying a premium on your electeds,
No.
they owe you a credit. Because electeds don't have disability insurance. I know some places that have been paying on their electeds.
Okay,
It's like, oh, do that. So now, we're coming into the two big ones, medical for actives and medical for retirees. And one of them here is a policy that, as you know, under the Affordable Care Act, you must allow participation in medical up to age 26.
6.
Here you're saying that after age 22, the taxpayer's not going to pay that premium, the employee's going to have to pay the premium. So a dependent child over the age of 22 may enroll in the plan with the employee paying all of the additional costs of the premium and the high deductible.
How was it before the Affordable Care Act came? What did we cover then?
You covered up to whatever the law said
23, wasn't it?
when they were in college or
22?
Yes, 22.
Well, Gordon, are you saying we cut off at 22?
I don't know what the rules were. It's whatever was under the.
And it moved around a little bit. It went from 22 to 23 at one time.
And it also was a function of whether they were in college at one point.
That's true.
So
Yeah,
it was
it
18,
was-
and then it was the 4 years of college after that. That's where the 22 came from.
Yeah.
So now what we're saying is when people reach their 22nd birthday, the employee has to pay.
No, it's the 23rd.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're covering
Through their
Over the age of
22nd
22.
year.
through the 22nd year, the employee has to pay, and that changes from what we do now.
Right. Now, under the ACA, they have to be able to participate in your plan, but the ACA does not require you to pay the premium.
Can the insurance, can we separate the amount, to say somebody has a family plan, which includes a 24-year-old? Do we know how much the,
If they have multiple children, you don't have any idea of doing that, and it doesn't cost you anything. So this is, again, just think of it this way.
If you have multiple children, you'd be paying for their out-of-pocket and their co-pays. You
Oh,
wouldn't
the
pay
premium-
for,
The premium wouldn't matter.
say you have 4 kids,
yeah,
and one of them is 25, and the rest are under 18. Your 25-year-old would be on your policy until your youngest kid reaches, until 26, they age out. Oh, I'm not explaining this right.
So-
You could have a family plan.
There's family plan, you get a free ride on the policy until your youngest kid is 23, then they're not covered.
okay, so then we're not saying that you go off the plan,
You can't.
We're just not gonna pay the deductible.
We're just not paying the deductibles and out-of-pocket.
For that,
Now, the third
well, the
part,
deductible is for the whole family plan, it's not by an
No,
individual.
actually, it works two ways.
There is an individual.
Yeah, it works two ways. Each individual works to the family aggregate. So if you had, let's say you had one family member that hit the deductible limit, then it's satisfied for everybody. But everybody has their deductible, but then
It's aggregated, so it's,
yeah, so you just take the.
so you could say that Johnny, 24-year-old Johnny, he's not in the game.
now, are we saying though that there's a cutoff at 26? Or,
So your insurance company cuts them off. You don't have anything to do with that, they drop them.
so the insurance company, you're saying, won't write a policy for a dependent
They drop them,
after the age of 26?
not eligible to participate.
Right.
The insurance company cuts them off, we don't.
They have to, yeah.
Yeah, the insurance company didn't want to do that in the first place.
They did not. They hate this part of
So if somebody has children below 22 and above 22, there's no charge to the employee. But if somebody just has children above 22, there is a charge to the employee
Yeah, for the premium.
for the premium. Well, and the
it. And they're sure
deductible.
the high deductible.
But there's always gonna be the deductible for the
Yeah.
over 22.
Does this make sense? We're going back to what it,
Well, the only thing that's different about what we were doing is that.
somehow, when the Affordable Care Act came, we did not change the policy. And
Yeah.
did we end up paying for? when the-
Children over 22.
Well, yeah, most employers, what they do is that they don't separate must participate and must pay the premium. You know, they just say, well, they gotta participate, so we're gonna pay the premium. They don't realize that you have to make it available, that doesn't mean that you have to pay the cost. And that's where a lot of employers, particularly the private sector, there's no dependent coverage. They'll pay 100% of the individual and 0% of
Okay.
anybody else.
I think we,
And so what they do in those cases is that the family's gotta come up with the money, because they get to participate in the plan.
Yep.
The next kicker in here is we want to make it very clear that non-benefit eligible employees and elected officials can enroll in this plan, but they have to pay the premium, of course. So if you don't want to go to the marketplace, you can still get your insurance through here. The next, back up on eligibility, to be clear about this, is that the town board is recommending that in addition to the full-time employees and the employees eligible family, which would include the domestic partner, the benefit is made eligible to the, what they deem to be the full-time electives. Now, you've been covering your superintendent of highways, and now you're going to include your town supervisor. And again, the reason for this is that And again, if you had an elected town clerk, we'd be talking about that person too, you don't. But most municipalities, without exception, the highway superintendent and the town clerk are included because they're in effect career employees. They just get subject to election every so often. And many towns where they have a town supervisor who's functioning as a full-timer, they're including that person also.
Michael, I don't think the town board has decided the issue. I think it's to be decided.
When you adopt this book, it would be decided. So-
Yeah, but we haven't decided it yet. I guess I have a problem with the concept, and I have a problem with this whole thing, because what we're doing as we get into this is we're cutting the benefits of retirees, people who have.
But you're ahead on the section.
I understand, but
Stay with
Michael,
this section.
Yeah,
We haven't gone to the other section yet.
Michael, let me
The majority of the board said to put this language in. So
Right.
if you want to go redo this,
what,
I think you need to get a vote of the board on what we're doing here.
right, but Michael, please let me talk. I was elected, I have a right to talk. You have not been elected, so please don't interrupt me.
Well,
Okay. I understand, but I want to
Joe,
get.
right now, I'm under the instructions of the town supervisor to go through this manual. Now, what do you want to do?
I want to go through the manual in a very,
Right,
page by page. We haven't turned the page yet.
Right, but I think it's the whole concept that we have to talk about. And what we're doing here is we're cutting benefits for existing retirees, we're cutting benefits for people who are going to retire in the future.
I don't
That-
recall cutting any benefits. for
We haven't
existing
discussed
retirees.
cutting benefits.
No,
Right.
no
Well,
existing
well,
retirees had their benefits cut at all, Joe. Not one penny.
We'll get to it.
They haven't.
That's a misstatement.
No existing retiree has had their benefits.
That's
cut.
actually an egregious misstatement.
Well, when you say no existing retiree, we're cutting back on reimbursement for Medicare Part B, aren't we?
Not on existing people.
Then maybe I'm misreading it, but I thought that's what your wording does.
It's not my wording, Joe. I was told to do this by the board. Yeah, you keep doing this to me. It's not my wording. You've had an existing handbook, and the board's been amending it for 4 years now. or 3
I'm
years.
looking at 6.2.4. It says the town will not reimburse an eligible retiree and a retiree spouse for the cost of Medicare Part B premium. 6.2.4. And then I thought what we're also doing is we're saying that for a retiree, the town will not pay the full cost, for the spouse only 50%. But I think all of this has to be considered in the context of, should we add the supervisor for paid medical? And, I think this is really in the context of compensation. I think we are probably low on compensation for the supervisor. We may even be low for compensation for ourselves. But the question is, should we do it through medical? And medical is pretty expensive for family, depending on whether it's 12.5% or 10% compensation. We're talking about more than $23,600. And I got a number of problems with doing it through medical as opposed to a salary increase. The medical is hidden. Voters don't know what compensation is. I think it's too much money, an additional $23,000. It would be the only part-time person getting medical. I've checked around, and I spoke to the Association of Towns. The lawyer that I spoke to said that the towns who do give medical, she believed the tendency was to cut back. Red Hook apparently did give medical at one time, but they don't do it any longer. They've cut back. Hyde Park does give apparently medical, but Hyde Park is a much bigger town.
Beekman gives it, because they're a client of mine. I know that.
Pauling gives it.
Well,
I mean, we can go through all the municipalities that do.
okay,
Catskill used to
I'm
be
sure we
very
can,
long.
but let me,
Marbletown does.
good, I'm trying to actually talk without being interrupted.
Well, I guess,
but-
my objection is that the board has gone through this, and now we're going through it again.
Michael, when
Are
you
you going
say
to change
the,
the policy?
Michael, I do object to that. When you say the board has gone through it, there was a meeting with 3 people there, Elizabeth, me, and Alan.
That's true. Ed and I weren't here for that meeting.
Ed and Elaine were not there,
That's
so,
true. I found out.
and at the meeting, you know how I came out, I'm not sure how Alan came out, and I don't think Elizabeth has to recuse herself on this, because we're talking about her compensation.
No, I don't, it's policy.
I would,
It's not compensation.
It's policy.
well,
You can personalize this is policy.
okay, I'm not trying to personalize it, but I would certainly think.
Well, you
that-
called me a part-time worker.
I think that it creates an appearance of impropriety to have somebody voting on their own compensation.
How do you vote on raises for the town board?
How would I vote on it? I don't know, I'd probably put it up to the voters.
No, here again, I have to say that frequently, very frequently, we go through this with, again, as you know, I work with 36 active municipalities now. Over the years, I've worked with 200. So I've visited this issue, I don't know how many times, where judges are taken off. We deal with the issue of town board members being taken off. Just recently, I was out of town, where they voted that all newly elected town board members and any newly elected town supervisor would not get this benefit, but the existing ones would continue to get it. Everybody voted on this, including the existing ones. You're setting policy, and so there has to be a time when this is not compensation. In fact, you do vote on the compensation, and you don't recuse yourself when you do your compensation, as you know you have to set when you put your budget together. So it is not the practice where town board members, when they're talking about their pay and when they're talking about their benefits, that they recuse themselves. I know no town that does that. The state legislature doesn't do that. They vote on their own pay, they vote on their own benefit package, they vote on their own retirement package. They vote on it.
Michael, again, let me try to
The
finish.
United States Congress votes on their
Look,
benefits.
each person, it's up to them as to make that ethical call, okay?
You're using-
Michael,
You're
that-
implying that it's unethical, and that's not true.
That is their decision about recusal.
It's
We
not
all-
about-
we
It's-
all
you're-
We all can decide that issue.
No.
You're using words like ethics.
Yes,
You're
that's-
saying
that's
somebody's part-time when everybody
totally
else says it's not
improper.
part-time.
This is
Can we-
regressive.
It's not right.
It's almost 7 o'clock, and we could be on this all day. Why don't we start with Alan and go down the table and just let everybody say their piece about this so we can decide on it one way or the other and move on?
All right, thank you.
Well, 2 things. I think giving medical benefits is the cheapest way for us to provide additional benefits on the one hand, and it's the most efficient way to receive benefits because of the tax consequences. And I think the town supervisor job, if it's not a full-time job, is pretty damn close to it. So why don't we call it that?
Elaine?
Okay, my feeling is, I would prefer to see that position go before voters and let them vote on whether or not to consider the supervisor's position full-time, much the same way in this past election.
You can't do that.
Wait, excuse me.
You can't legally do that.
But you're not allowed, it's not a permissive referendum
Your
issue.
suggestion can't happen.
So they can do the hours, or the years increase, but they
Only.
can't do,
No.
okay, so that it can't go before voters.
No.
So then I think that the board needs to decide whether it's a full-time position, and then compensate it as such. My problem with just accepting it right now is, number one, I feel like I just learned about this. I feel like there's information out there that Joe has brought before us that towns that have done this have pulled back, and I suspect it's because the difficulties we have with financial constraints, the tax caps, and retirement and health benefits are very, very costly to municipalities in the wake of state and other cutbacks. It hurts to have to do something like that without being really mindful of the long-term impact. And I feel like we haven't had an opportunity to really get that feedback from those towns that have decided not to do it, why they decided not to do it. I feel like it's a worthy discussion to have, and I feel like we don't have the time before us right now to really look at that. So that's one issue I have. I don't have any problem at all. I mean, Elizabeth, you're a hard worker, and I have no doubt at all that you put in a lot of hours. But as the job stands right now, it's considered a part-time job. And I feel like there's an immediate disparity, which is something we've discussed since the budget, about rectifying the disparity between how people are compensated here. And I don't think that one part-time person should be compensated without offering that to other part-time positions. Just as a parity issue, that's why I wanted to opt for something more of like increasing the hours so that you could be considered full-time and have that compensated through health benefits, as that every other full-timer does. If that's not able to go through the voters, then I think the board should make that determination and then compensate it accordingly. I just feel like we open up another parity issue doing it this way. So I guess I feel like there's a lot of information we still don't have, and as the concept of that I don't have a problem with. But I wasn't here at the last meeting, and the meeting that I was at, my understanding was we were going to allow you to buy into the current existing healthcare. So I don't know. I mean, I just feel this is a complicated issue. There's a lot of problems municipalities have had. Retirement and health benefits is a big one. I know we've discussed since the budget, controlling the number of full-time positions we bring in. We kind of patchworked part-time positions in order to avoid adding to our medical and retirement expense. So I'm a little taken aback by this. I wasn't prepared for something like this right now. I personally feel like it requires more discussion before it's something that we should do for the reasons I just mentioned.
Ed?
I think medical coverage might be the cheaper way to go if you're to be compensated. I think your position should be compensated because I don't think you get enough money for what you do. I'm also concerned about if you give something like this to, not making it personal, to the superintendent, is the next superintendent going to work as diligently as you do?
Right.
That's something that the voters have to decide. Oh, go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think you should be compensated. I'm not sure exactly how.
If I can give you some constructive information, you do this for your highway superintendent now. As the independent elected official, that highway superintendent doesn't have to work 1 hour. Now, I know some highway superintendents out there that probably work about 10 hours a week. I know some highway superintendents out there that work 50 hours a week. You never know. But this is, again, standard practice. Same thing with town clerks, elected town clerks. They work whatever hours they want. So I think the first threshold you do is, do you consider this to be a full-time benefit eligible job? Now, again, you can't set the hours. So it's not a matter of, she's not an hourly employee. She occupies a position. Is your current town supervisor to be considered to be full-time equivalent? Is a good choice of words.
Yep.
And you treat your highway superintendent that way now.
But we
You
have
don't
that
have to do
written.
this with your town clerk, because your town clerk is.
Is-
But our
Is the point.
supervisor is, at least, and I think this is in writing, correct me if I'm wrong, is considered part-time, whereas
No,
the
No.
the
none of that's in
superintendent
writing
is
anymore.
full-time.
You-
Okay, that
you-
makes a difference,
you
it's not
can't-
in writing
But
anymore.
you
No,
can't,
it's-
you can't consider it to be full-time or part-time. You can't touch that. Again, hear me
It's an
clearly.
elected position.
That person works whatever hours they
You
want
don't have to
whether-
show up. You
Now,
can be
whether or
elected
not
and you
wanna give
don't
that
have to
person
come.
benefits, that's what you have something.
That goes back to Ed's concern, though. I mean, listen, just, here's the thing, and I think what Ed just referred to, and what you just referred to too, it makes it very difficult, because we know, I'm not gonna mention any names, but we do know that there have been supervisors that have worked for the town who have not really been present. And there's no way to hold them accountable. And I know you're saying the voters can, but we have people that have been elected
Guess the
time and
board
again.
would then decide to cancel that person's health insurance.
Right.
That's a big thing to do, though, too.
It is.
So what do you do?
If-
Let me, it is disrespectful to pretend that this is a 10-hour-a-week job. It's disrespectful to the
not.
position.
No, it's not.
This is a minimum of a 40-hour-a-week job, and there's overtime, there are night calls, there's weekend stuff. It's regressive and disrespectful, and our labor practices are regressive if you look at our wages and what we pay people here. And
But
I'm
we
not
are-
talking about,
Elizabeth, can I just say, though, I mean, everybody, you're a very hard worker, and you're really good at what you do. It is truly not, I think, for any of us that are, like, questioning this. Number one, it's relatively new. Number two, it's a big decision. I don't think
I don't think it's
anybody's questioning on
yeah.
the merits of,
I don't think it's
whether
such a
you're
big
full-time or
decision,
not.
and I think we made the wrong decision when we did what we did with the bookkeeping department. It's the wrong decision. And there may be a time where we have to raise taxes a couple of percent to pay people correctly and to give the correct benefits. And we are the lowest tax rate in the county, the lowest. And I'm fine with being.
we're the lowest tax rate, but I just have to say this.
Let me just finish.
Go
I'm
ahead.
fine with being frugal. I am not fine with not compensating people living wages and benefits. It's regressive.
Elizabeth,
Can I just say one thing, though? I just lost track of what it was just a response to what you said. It'll have to come to me again. It was important, though, so I want to remember. Go ahead, Joe, because I forgot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, please don't try to personalize it. We're not attacking you. We're not attacking you.
You don't need to apologize to me. I am not personalizing it. I'm calling this board out on some regressive labor practices that I don't agree with.
Okay.
I think we made the absolute wrong decision for $22,000 a year.
Let's not.
Joe, I know what I was going to say, if you don't mind. Let me just jump in before I forget again. I do want to say this, because I talked to a lot of working class people about the tax base. And I've heard this board talk before about, too, that we have a low tax rate in Rhinebeck. The only thing I have to say to that is that taxes for people are cumulative. It's not like if one entity is lower than another, therefore they have less of a burden, because Rhinebeck's personal local tax base is lower than Red Hook's. I think that people that struggle have that burden, and it's a cumulative one from the combination of all the taxes. So I understand that our tax burden is low, but honestly, personally, I feel proud of that, because people are still really struggling. And I think it's going to get worse, not better. And I think we have to remember that taxes are cumulative. Whether our tax base is low, comparatively speaking, is really irrelevant to people that struggle. And I just have to say that.
Yeah, fair
Look,
enough.
if I can interject on the low tax rate, the mill rate is low. I did talk to Bruce Washburn about it, because he is somebody who followed statistics. And what he's thought is that our evaluations are higher.
He's
than-
absolutely wrong, and the state has called us out on that. We're in danger. Bruce has been regressive about that. We're in danger of losing our valuation because our assessments are,
Well,
not
but I
there.
don't know if they're lower than other
I
places.
think Bruce's
but
house
that's
is assessed for
neither here nor there.
$300,000. I'll buy it.
But I'm not so sure that we are the lowest. I think you'd really have to compare
I have.
assessments in other places. But
Well, we're in
let-
100%.
let's go back to this. What we're really talking about is going up to, say the medical benefit is 23,000 plus 20, we're talking about 43,000 dollars now. Alan, you say, well, it's the cheapest way to do it.
Because you don't have to pay payroll taxes.
I understand that, but you still are spending an extra $23,000.
If-
You know, yeah, you don't have to pay payroll taxes, but
If we pay 100%, that's what it is.
Do we know what the
no,
difference is?
I'm deducting the 12.5%, and it comes out to 23,000.
Joe, do we know what the difference is between what the payroll tax would be if Alan's saying it's cheaper
Another
versus?
15-20%.
What do you
Pardon
add
me?
on for retirement? What would you
Are
add
you in
on?
the pension system?
Yes,
Pension's 15.8%. And then,
FICA,
employment taxes.
another 12, 13,
Oh, no.
16?
No, much lower than that. It's, just for simple, round off, call it 8%.
So it's
So
23%.
you're at 23% on those two alone.
Plus state tax.
Yeah, that's all kind of, well,
We don't pay state taxes.
yeah, the employee pays that income tax on it.
Oh, but
Got
the
it.
employee.
Yeah, often when we do the true cost of labor, we use the number 10% because it's put in workers' compensation, but she's not under workers' compensation, so call it 8%.
See, I'm
So
comparing,
8 plus the 15.8, just say 24% is the surcharge on
I'm comparing ourselves to Red Hook, which is about our population. I think they pay their supervisor, the new budget, $29,500. And I think that's a better way to go than the medical, because medical can go up every year. And people don't know, voters don't know how much the job is. The Red Hook, well, the population is even much bigger than Rhinebeck. It's 11,000. Rhinebeck, I think, is what?
Around 8,000.
Yeah, around high sevens. Rhinebeck is 2014, the whole town was 7,600. The mayor of the village, and the village is much smaller, gets 16, no benefits. So what you're really doing is a huge increase. I am not adverse to increasing salaries for the supervisor. I think we should, but I think that's a much better way to compensate than medical, where the cost goes up.
Okay.
I don't believe you can increase
We've-
the compensation.
We can't now. So we've heard where you stand, we've heard where everyone stands, and I think that the majority is for the medical.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you
I
said.
think the majority is for the medical benefit.
Well, I don't know, why don't we poll?
We just did.
Are you for it? I got the impression you weren't.
I'm not for it.
You're not for it.
No. I think it should be compensated. I just don't know where I am right now.
Okay.
Why can't you be compensated more, Elizabeth?
but-
Didn't we put 20,000 in
No, no,
contingency
no,
for raises?
it's done for the
Yeah,
year.
once,
passed.
when you set your, for all your electeds, you have to set your salaries for the coming year prior to the budget process, and you can't change it.
But my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we put $20,000 in
You can't change
contingency.
We cannot change it. Not an elected.
Oh, not an elected, so the
We-
20,000
We're
is for
still
the
dealing
staff.
with the staff.
So we can do it for next year.
When,
Why don't we do the medical stuff for 1 year?
Alan, that's ridiculous. Once you do something like
I
that,
need-
you can't, it's hard to go back. And no, but it's hard to go back. When you do something like that, it's like a big thing to do.
Let's come back to this, let's move on. We'll put a question mark here, Michael.
Can I just ask why we're not deciding this now? I mean.
Because I think you guys are
Because honestly, I
decided.
think the thing that's gonna help us to make a different determination, for those of us that are confused and a little like undecided, is more information. We have time to get all the
Well, I
information.
think we gotta wrap it up, and we have one more huge thing to do for them, and we
Well,
can come
yeah,
back.
again, if you want to establish who your comparables are, we can look at. I mean, again, I know my clients here, I have, in this county, most of my clients, you know, are in Ulster County. In this county, I have LaGrange, Beekman, and you guys.
But I'd be
LaGrange and
interested in
Beekman
knowing,
provide their guys
right,
with
but
the
I'd be interested in knowing what that attorney, why the reason is that other municipalities were not doing this.
That-
Well,
that
first of all, the Association of
that
Towns,
is
I have
so
no
out
idea
of
what the
touch, yeah.
context was of that.
That is an
That's
attorney
not
at the
that-
Association of Towns who doesn't know anything about,
That's not,
practice.
that's not, they're supposed to be commenting on
On
the law,
law,
not on what's
exactly.
common policy. Because, again, I can tell you, out of my 36 clients, there are some that do, some that don't. And the reasons they do and the reasons they don't.
But I feel like there's a reason they would have said that to Joe that I would be interested in knowing more about.
You're talking to an employee for a not-for-profit association, it's not even, it's a not-for-profit association. This is an attorney that works there. You could have called up the Chamber of Commerce, asked them.
I think that's a little unfair, because
I don't-
I've had to go to them in
I
my capacity
co-lecture
for,
with them. I
for other
co-lecture.
things. I mean, I
I
don't
know
think that
Lori
they're
Mifflin.
clueless.
I know Lori Mifflin personally.
But there's
She's not
more than,
supposed-
there's other attorneys there. I mean, I just don't think that you can make a blanket statement like that.
They do it all the time, they're not supposed to. I call Lori up and I say, Lori, what are your people doing commenting on policy?
Well, why are they the ones training electeds when they're newly elected?
They train on the law, they don't train on the policy, they don't sit in on.
It's
board
not, no,
meetings.
it's not about that. It's more about when they have their big seminars and their, let me just say
I
this,
lecture
Michael,
those.
and they work, and they do this. One of the opportunities that we have when I've gone to that training is the opportunity to ask questions and to be part of other people's questions that have been elected for many years, that are newly elected, and they're able to address those things. I mean, they, you know, I think it's unfair to compare them to a Chamber of Commerce. I mean,
No, they're exactly
they
like
provide
Chamber
the
of
training for us to
Well,
be
the
able to
Chamber of
understand our
Commerce does
jobs.
this for private sector. They're like the Chamber of Commerce, that's what they are. They're an association that supports a segment.
Could
of
we go on and
business.
come
Yeah.
back to this? Let's.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be offering opinions. on
I
what
disagree
policy-
with that. No, it's not offering opinions on policy. I think what Joe was saying is that they were giving information about feedback they've gotten from other towns that have
Well,
implemented
how would
those
an
things and then
attorney
changed
at
them.
the Association of Towns have any feedback on this? Lori Mifflin it's
I
an
can-
overstep.
Well, okay, wait, but.
I call Lori
you say
Mifflin
that,
to
but
say,
I called
Well,
I
Lori
got-
tomorrow and asked her why she offered that opinion.
I am
I
too.
contacted Sarah Brancatella not long ago asking about the wage parities, when we were talking at the town about having wage parity, and asked her if there was somebody there that had done any studies, and they had information about this. So, you know, they're not, I just don't want to treat
Who's
them
Sarah
like there's some
Brancatella?
fly. She's another attorney for the Association of Towns. I've contacted her many times since I started.
Comparing
on the
them to the
board.
Chamber of Commerce is not comparing them to a fly-by-night. What I'm saying, they're like the Chamber of Commerce. That's what they are.
No, but I'm saying that, but to describe them is like what, anyway, I don't want to
Yeah,
get
why
into
don't
it.
we
I'm just
go
saying,
on?
I'm just saying there's information out there that I think as a board, we have, we would want to learn more about. If it means nothing and they're speaking out of turn and they have no idea what they're talking about, that would be good to know too. Maybe we shouldn't go to them
But there's,
anymore.
okay.
But I
No,
feel
we
like
don't.
there's, you know,
So but there's another way to look at it. There's what everybody else is doing, and then there's the right thing to do.
well, Alan, the right thing to do. So you're the judge and jury on the right
Well, I
thing
mean,
to
that's
do.
what we're paid to do. is
Well,
figure
no,
out
it's
what
The
not.
right thing-
It's your opinion, it's the right thing to do. I'm not suggesting, by the way, that it's not a good thing to do. I'm just saying, we need more information before decide. It's a big thing to do is what I'm saying. It's a complicated, big thing to do. And we've had people in Elizabeth's position before that have not come up to the table, and she's not gonna be here forever, nobody is. If we have another supervisor and we give them something that big, it's harder to pull
it
back.
is not harder to pull back, and you would do it in a second if someone were shirking. I would, and I would have no compunction about doing it. I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
I think when you have a board, you have a complicated group of relationships, and it makes it a lot harder. It's easier said than done is the only thing I'm saying.
Let me ask you
It
Which is why I
becomes a
think it's
highly
important.
emotional issue, as
I
we
mean,
can
look what
see
we're,
from
right,
this
exactly.
discussion.
Thank you, exactly. That's all I'm saying.
So
That- I
you
like-
have to
I like-
have the hard
But I like-
discussions. You have to.
Of course you do. But I have to say, like, I think what I like about Joe's idea is you should be compensated. You should be compensated more. There's no question about it. But it's an easier thing on the town down the road later if it's a financial compensation versus a
Yeah.
growing beast that is the healthcare and retirement and pensions we have to pay out. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Well,
I'm
there's
not,
there's no
I'm
retirement.
not thinking of
and-
you, I'm thinking of like somebody in the future
There's
who
no
wouldn't.
pension,
No.
I'm sorry, retirement and health.
there's no retirement.
Health.
There's not.
Health benefits,
Yeah.
health, dental.
I mean,
There's no retired health for electeds.
there's no retired health for electeds.
No, I'm talking about the health, I meant to say the health now, the health insurance in general.
I mean,
Just the cost of it.
Instead of doing 87.5% of premium, we could do a fixed amount too.
Do individual only.
So that,
Do individual only.
Or we could do.
Well, see, this is part of, this is why it's good we're talking about this right now, because
I mean, we could do 15,000 and put it in a health savings account or whatever they're called.
That's not actually how you do it, but there is a vehicle.
Yeah, there is a vehicle.
that's an interesting thing to explore, because if we did cut,
Yes, that sounds
an
good.
increase the salary, it would work out to be the same, but it would go into,
What you do
It would
is,
be tax
you
free.
provide,
Right.
you provide, it's a medical expenditure account. We do this for some labor unions where we're gonna give you 14,000, we don't care how you use it, but it has to be for
As
medical.
long as you pay.
so then we can do parity with, say, Red Hook, and, I think that's something we ought to explore.
But also, again, I'm gonna say that if you look at Beekman, which is small, about your same size, I know that that person has a full-time job, and she also works full-time for the town board, and I know she does for years. Barbara, she gets the medical benefit. Alan over at LaGrange, she gets the benefit. In fact, all the town board members at LaGrange.
Barbara who?
Barbara Zuloff, Beekman.
all their town board members get health benefits?
Pauling, everyone in Pauling, everyone in Wappinger,
I would
everybody.
wanna see this board get,
No, but
But
I think it's the wrong thing to do, I think it's
I mean,
unfair to
I
taxpayers.
literally represent half the towns in Ulster County, so I have pretty good, out of the 20, I represent 10 of them. And I just went through my mind, and I think all 10 of them, the town supervisor gets the benefit. I can't think of one that doesn't.
I think compensating you to get the benefit
Gardner
makes
does.
sense, I don't think anybody else on the board.
let's move on to the last thing, and we can come back to this at the
Well,
next meeting.
the next things that you talked about when we went through this was that the premium for your current employees here would be the same as that's set at the highway. So those that were hired before 2004, it would be 5%. Those that were hired between September 1 of 4 and January 1 of 13, it would be 10%. Those that were hired after January 1st of 13 would be 12.5%.
Where are you right now?
That's on
5.1.4.
514,
Michael,
515, 516. And what this is exactly the same as the highway. Now, we put language in here also that says effective January 1st, 2016. So those individuals that were hired before September 1 of 04, I believe they would be getting a credit or something like that, if I'm correct. Is that how that would work?
Michael, a couple questions on that. My understanding is that there's 4 kinds of plans now, Shelley. We have single, we have husband and wife and family, we have one adult and children, and we have single. That there's 4 possible plans, not 3.
Well, actually, 2-person encompasses that other group that you have. So you have anybody who's employee spouse or employee child is considered 2-person. They're in the same category.
No, but there, we pay different
I
premium.
know. You
We pay different premiums for
You
it.
do, but this says that you pay, in this case, it's 5% of the individual 2-person or family, as the case may be. So it doesn't matter what it is, it's 5%. Whether it's individual or family or anything, it's 5%. If it's 10% for individual 2-person or family, it's 10%. And for that other category, again, regardless, it's 12.5%.
So why do you list individual coverage, 2-person coverage, or family coverage?
Because those are 3 different, when you're individual or 2-person or family, it's just saying that whatever the
Covers all
premium is.
bases.
So 2-person's just
But there's a
aggregated.
4th base.
Well, I
That's
gotta
what
tell
I'm-
you, you go over to a
The other
different
2
insurance,
bases are 2.
you go over to a different insurance plan, they'll break out the 2-person 3 different ways. So 2-person's just 2-person for a figurative point of view. It has no impact. I mean, you can actually omit the language of individual, two-person, or family, because you're paying 5, 10, or 12.5% of whatever it is.
Beats me, but let's go up to 1.1.1. That last paragraph in November.
Where are you, Joe? 1.1.1?
I'm sorry, 5.1.1. I'm still on the same page. It says, in no event shall the town be required or obligated to pay or reimburse any portion of a doctor bill, X-ray, that is not covered or reimbursed by an insurance plan. But we do pay the deductible. Isn't that inconsistent with the deductible? What that paragraph is talking about is, other than the deductible, we don't do payment.
No, the purpose of this language is simply to say that if something, you're making available of a plan, and if the plan changes something on their formulary, you're not liable for it. So you're only liable for what the plan covers. You're not covering it. So you're making available a plan, a medical insurance plan, and a prescription drug plan, and you're not liable for anything that's not covered by that plan. That's what this is saying.
But we
This has nothing
pay,
to do with premiums. It has nothing to do with high deductibles. It says you're not paying for any medical cost that's not covered by the plan. That's what that's saying.
but coverage doesn't kick in until the deductible is used up.
That's not what this is pertinent to. It's not even in that section. This is under, the town makes available a plan. This is saying the town is not. should
I'm
not-
just reading the words.
Yeah. This deals with the first paragraph. The first paragraph says you make available a plan. This is just your hold harmless clause. This is the standard universal clause that I put into all labor contracts and handbooks saying, we ain't paying for nothing that's outside the plan.
Well, again, I would think you
And the
would.
plan doesn't count those things as part of the deductible.
That's another section.
Yeah.
And this paragraph is not in the
Right, but
section.
the
pertaining
deductible
to
can
the-
be used.
No,
It's not in that.
it's
That's not-
outside the plan, it can't be.
That's not what it's talking about. In no event shall the plan be required or obligated to pay or reimburse any portion of a doctor's bill, hospital bill, that is not covered or reimbursed by the insurance plan.
But it says the town shall, in no event shall the town be required to
I've
pay.
had more than 50 attorneys
If somebody has a
review
nose
this
job,
language.
and it's not covered by the, can you hear my question? If somebody gets a nose job, which is not covered by the insurance, the cost of that nose job does not count towards the deductible.
No, it's not covered by the plan, because it says is not covered or reimbursed by the insurance plan. You're not liable for anything outside the plan.
But
So
if there's
you're
a-
making available a plan, and you're not gonna pay for anything outside the plan. That's what this is saying.
But if there's a doctor's bill, we would pay that
No, you
even
wouldn't.
if the insurance company doesn't.
No,
That's
you
why
wouldn't.
we
You would
have
not.
the health maintenance
No, you
account.
would not pay it. You cannot apply, you don't have a health maintenance thing, you have a health reimbursement account.
Right.
You would not pay that.
We don't pay,
The HRA is only used towards the premium and the deductible. Excuse me, I misspoke, it's not even used, it's only used,
If
Let
it's
Shelley
covered
talk.
under the
Plan.
plan, the HRA will pay that doctor's
Exactly.
bill. If the service is not even covered by the health insurance, it's just saying the town's not gonna pick up any responsibility.
and the HRA is
for
not
it.
applicable for it.
So if the person has a doctor's appointment and it's covered under insurance, the high deductible will pay it. If it's
Okay.
not covered, it's not gonna come out of the HRA, it's not gonna be a copay, it's not covered at all.
Yeah, it's like Medicaid.
in 5.1.7, we say the town in sole discretion may change the amount of the insurance premium an employee or elected officials required to contribute. What about the deductible? We can change that also. Should that be expanded to add the word deductible?
That's part of the policy.
Well,
No.
unlike in your labor contract, you look here, you don't even see HRA in this whole section. There's nothing to be said about HRA. What it has here is that you're paying a percentage of the premium. There's nothing to do here. You do your HRA by resolution throughout the year by year, because as you know, has your HRA changed every year?
Every plan, it changes.
for the past how many years?
Every.
And so we don't put HRAs into employment manuals. Now, we sometimes have to with a labor contract because the nature of a labor contract. But you do your HRAs by resolution year by year, not year.
So you can say we can change it and we don't have to say anything about it.
Because we don't put the HRA into the employment manual. As I say, you change this almost yearly.
Next thing that I have, we can go to the next page, is the buyout. And I think our current buyout is, we pay 25%. And I'm not sure I understand what we're doing in this buyout. It looks like the numbers are different than the 25%, and I'm not sure how it works.
Well, again, this, I thought we went over this in great detail.
We did go over this in great detail.
And a
Excuse me, I don't remember.
25% buyout of whatever you're paying by chance is an arbitrary number that doesn't translate into anything meaningful. Some employees may be getting a windfall, some employees may not be getting enough. So if I say I'm gonna give 25% of whatever it costs me, well, what's that number? If I'm gonna give you employee A, employee B. Employee A is married to someone who works for the state of New York, and a family plan costs 31% of the premium, plus deductibles. So if they're in a $20,000 family plan, 31% is exactly $6,200. If you're paying 25% of your premium on a family plan, and remember, the buyout is subject to employment taxes, you don't even come close to $6,200. That employee is not even going to look at the buyout, because 25% of your premium is, what's your premium right now on a family plan?
23, we just said, right?
No, that's.
No,
that
just
includes
on premium,
deductible.
probably about 16,000.
It's about 1,900 a month, I think.
Which, on a family you're asking about?
Yeah, the premium going into the MVP Silver 8. I have it here.
For family, it's $16,635.
Okay, so you take 25% of that, that helps you, it's $4,000.
4,000 and change.
4,000 after a 32% income tax is what? You're left with about $3,000.
3,000.
So this employee's gonna get $3,000 for you after taxes. Even for them to look at their spouse's plan on the state, that's $6,200, they're not gonna go. Employee B, their spouse works for Acme School District that pays 100% still, you know? Doesn't matter. So it costs them nothing, you're giving them $3,000. To go to their spouse's plan, it costs them nothing. So employee A doesn't have enough to even get into the game. Employee B is putting $3,000 in their pocket, thank you. I've been asked over and over, should that be 35%? Should it be 40%? Should it be 50%? And I said, what are you talking to me about? Those are just numbers that, they don't work. What you should be saying to me is, I'm going to hold you harmless to go to your spouse's plan, and I'll give you 2 steak dinners to make a joke. Now, in this case, it's $1,000. So employee A, you're going to give that person $6,200 marked up for taxes. So is in the math right here, that would be something where we go, it would be $6,200 times 1.32, do the head math for me. There, and so
So the 1.32 is to take care of the tax?
The tax liability.
On the amount?
Yeah.
And what, so you're thinking the person is in the 32nd tax bracket?
you want to make it 28, make it 28. We use 32 because that's the
I'm
highest.
just asking, I just
Yeah.
want to understand what
No,
there
I mean,
is.
I have some clients that number's 25, I have some clients that number's 28, I have some clients that number's 32. We don't go higher than 32 because 32 is as high as you're going to go.
Okay, so that's going to cover the,
Right. So now again, employee A and employee B. Employee A, $6,200 of that dollars is going to go to the insurance company in premiums. And the remainder of that tax part is going to go to the tax man. They still have no money, but they're held harmless. Oh, the 2 steak dinners, we're going to give them $1,000. Employee B, well, 0 times 1.32 is 0, right? And they get $1,000. So at the end of the day, what does employee A and employee B have?
$1,000.
Their medical insurance is covered, doesn't cost them, and they get $1,000. What does the taxpayer get? Well, in the case of employee A, they just saved about probably $7,000. In the case of employee B, they saved $16,000. So what should the buyout be? Anything short of $1 of what it's costing me here.
Yeah.
Now, I have some clients, they like to put in no event shall the buyout exceed $12,000. Actually, it should say, in no event shall the buyout exceed $1 less than what I'm paying. Right? So anyhow, what this is this is known as a hold harmless plus 2 state dinners. It works. And should employee B, suddenly the labor contract at that school district requires a 10% copay, it automatically adjusts. And all they have to do, clerks, is they come in on January 1st with a statement from their employer saying this is what their contribution costs were. And should they have a mid-year contract that changes it, they have to come in and say, here's my change.
We talk about the annual premium copayment. I'm not sure I know what that is. What-
That's what the spouses would be paying, like I said, like in the case of.
Or what the spouse pays for
The preacher.
his or her
In
plan?
that case, in case 1, it was 6,200, in case 2, it was 0,
It's the employee's contribution.
to the spouse's plan.
In our town, it's the 5, 10, and 12.5%.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the annual, so it's amount equal to the co-payment for the alternative medical plan multiplied by the tax rate plus 1,000. So it's always gonna be a minimum of 1,000 and could be higher depending on how much how many dollars the other person pays.
The highest I've ever seen it go, I mean, it was a case where the employee had 100% on the individual and 0 on dependent coverage. And so it was going to cost them all of the additional costs to go over there. I think it ended up costing $14,000 marked up by taxes, and it would be almost $17,000. The employer was still saving $3,000.
Without personalizing it, I guess we ought to look at what effect this would have on people who get the buyout.
Let's put this aside and move on
Yeah,
to the
okay,
next thing.
that's fine.
We're gonna have to have another meeting scheduled for this, obviously.
Only in the union.
Well, and again, my guess is some people can't afford to buy out because 25% of whatever you have is not going to buy you much.
We have a,
There would be the possibility of one person getting a buyout that doesn't currently even take the insurance, that we're not paying a buyout for. Did I say that correctly?
I
yes.
understand what you're saying. Which actually has a negative effect on the budget, but it's still the type of thing this is the type of thing that the system you have right now,
Let's-
people may not be looking at a buyout because it just doesn't buy them.
Let's put this on hold. Let's go to retirement benefits. I want to wrap this up by
Yeah.
8, and we'll schedule another meeting.
Look, on this one, I guess I'm very sensitive to change in benefits to people who have already retired.
Well, that would be the Part B, yes.
What?
That would be the Part B.
That's Part B, and also, isn't it 6
Let
point?
Michael take us through this, please. We haven't gone through it. Thank you.
Well, first of all, what this does is that any new hire after January 1st will have no expectations of retiring medical because it's not going to be offered to them. So this is only for people who have already retired or are currently employed and will retire. So none of the currents are cut off and no new employee will be eligible.
Say that again? We would not be giving retirement benefits to?
A new hire,
At all, nothing.
no.
Well, we could.
Well, I would ask you the question, first of all, and we talked about this last time with Alan, is that the private sector, this is completely gone. Nobody gets retiring medical
But-
insurance. And even in New York State, this is an informal survey that I've been conducting over the years at Association of Town lectures that I give on the subject. Roughly 20% of all municipalities provide no retiree medical at all. None. And then some do.
They used to and stuff it?
They never did.
I thought they had.
No, 20% of all municipalities, I'm telling you, never did. And some of them are my clients, and some of them are not my clients.
20%?
Yeah, if you go, I've done this survey informally, again, for 4 years in a row. I'm going back 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. The Association of Towns had me come down and lecture explicitly on retiree benefits
Let's
and
just,
the true cost of labor.
can you just
Well, but
cut
I
it?
would canvass people at the time, how many of you do not provide retiree medical insurance at all? And I would count the hands that went up. And again, I've gone out, I've tried to get this understanding of who offers this benefit. And again, it's an unscientific survey. 20% of all municipalities do not provide any retiree medical insurance benefit at all, period.
Okay,
Now,
let's make
that
sure.
means that 80% of them do.
Let's
And
just,
out of the spectrum of those that do, it goes from almost bare minimum to something that it results in a $325,000 post-employment benefit. You're in that category of your employees are eligible for a $325,000 post-employment benefit. If you just want to give me some quick math, they can retire at age 55 and you're going to pay their premium until they die. Now, if you just go from 55 to 65 on a $16,000 plan with no inflation, 10 years times 16 is $160,000. Now they go into a Medicare supplement plan that costs them maybe $10,000 a year for them and their spouse. So they're going to live now from 65 to 75, 10,000 with no inflation. There's another 100,000. So with no inflation, this employee has a $260,000 post-employment benefit. They work for you for 20 years. 20 years at 40 hours a week is about $40,000. Take 40,000 hours into $260,000. What's your number?
could I suggest?
Hold
What's your
on.
number?
Well, it's about $6 an hour.
Okay, so for every hour they work for you, you've given them $6 in deferred compensation. This is on somebody who's making, we admit, underpaid people.
$20.
Let's say they're making $20 an hour. You're giving them the equivalent of a 22% surcharge on their payroll. Now, if I came to you as a business person and said that we're going to put together a post-employment benefit package that's going to cost 22% of payroll, you would freak out. There's not one of you that would do this in business.
That's
would
why
you?
IBM took it all.
Why are
away.
you doing it now? Because this is exactly what you are doing. I'm not exaggerating the numbers, and I didn't even give you inflation. The real number, and I have charts that I'll show you. The Association of Towns, I would sit there with 400 town supervisors in the audience, and I would show how they are liable for a $320,000 post-employment benefit. That's $8 an hour for somebody that's making $20 an hour. And I said to them, just like I said to you, if you were running a business, there's not one of you that would do this. Not one of you. So, but you're doing it. You are doing it right now. I'm passionate about this because you got to stop it. I'm not saying take the benefit away. What is a reasonable amount? If I said to you, would you do 10% of deferred compensation? You go, oh, that's a little bit high. I'm only doing 7% on their Social Security. But would you do 10%? Would you put $2 an hour in deferred compensation so that they have this nice benefit at the end of the year? You might say yes. You might say yes to $3 an hour. That's a little bit generous because $3 an hour, you know, but you get my story. Right now, you're going to pay 100% of whatever that premium might be, and you have no clue what that's going to be. But if you were to say, I'm going to put $2 an hour into a tin can for every hour that you work for me, that's safe, that's secure, that's yours to use. When you retire towards your benefit package that you buy out there on the exchange, I don't care where you buy it. It's your money to use. Now, if I work for you for 20 years, I've given you 40,000 hours. That's going to be, I'm rounding off, $80,000 that I have sitting in a tin can to go buy my medical insurance. I work for you for 30 years. I got $120,000 in my tin can.
Good.
It's calculated. It's a percentage. You know what you're doing. You can budget
This is a
for it.
radical change we're talking about.
And the thing
And-
is that I challenge you. You don't have a choice.
What's wrong
Because
with that?
everybody that's getting ready to
Sorry?
retire, that you're giving this unfettered cap.
Right now, we
Where
have
have you come up with the money?
people working for town hall who are going to retire with the expectation of getting their medical benefits paid for life. And
In
we're
full.
talking about changing that.
Paid in life for full. And again, I'm telling you, you got a $325,000 post-employment benefit if somebody leaves you at age 55. How do you justify that?
I mean, I don't,
Could I
And
suggest,
also,
Hold on, Joe.
when you're taxpayers, if you go out and canvass them, IBM, everybody, this is not an exaggeration, 80% of your taxpayers do not get anything other than Medicare. And so you're going to your taxpayers saying, I'm gonna give somebody who worked here 20 years a $325,000 post-employment benefit.
Why
And guess who's
don't-
paying for it?
why
You're paying
don't,
for
why
it.
don't we say that, you can collect retirement insurance after 65?
Well, here's what some clients have been doing over the years. First of all, because of the way the retirement system is set up, you can go at age 62 with no penalty, as you know. And so they say, I'm not gonna cause you to work to age 65 because you can get your full retirement benefit from the state at age 62. Okay, I get it. I'm gonna give you one town in particular, not too far away from here. They pay 100% of the premium for age 63, 64, age 62, 63, and 64. 100% of the premium. And then when they go to Medicare, they pay the Part B only. If they want a supplement plan, that's on them. So if they want a Medicare Advantage, you pick up the Medicare Advantage. So I will cover 100% of your premium, so you can go at 62,
100% or 87 and a
whatever you
half
want
or
to do.
90?
I'm telling you what this client does. What this client does, they pay nothing. You go before 62, that was your decision. You go at 62 because you can take your pension without penalty, good for you. I will pay 100% to get you to Medicare, no problem, and you can budget that. Let's say that it's 16,000, 16,000, 16,000, 16,000. I'm up to $48,000. And then I'm going to pay your Part B for the rest of your life. That runs out at roughly about $2,000 per year. You live for 10 years, that's another $20,000. $20,000, $47,000, $66,000 in post-employment benefit. You've worked here how long? Works for me. It works in the math. It's generous, but it works. It's not insane. What you're doing right now is, you can't
I think we
justify it.
need to digest this. I
well,
think,
could I-
hold on. I think you guys need to digest this. I think we need to schedule another meeting. We
Or
can,
even look at these charts.
we can,
It's like
we
that.
can, we can talk about this for a little while longer, but I want to wrap it up by 8, before 8.
Well, again, 2 years ago, this
But
is where
Michael,
your
could-
manual broke down because the board wouldn't.
Yes, yes.
Michael, could I just suggest, so people could really understand it, because I don't think any of people could can you just take us through and not argue a position, but just what these sections do, so we really can understand it, and then we can argue about the merits of each piece, but let's go through it as to what each section does. So first you said, no retiree benefit for new,
Then why
people.
would somebody want to take this job at $15 an hour?
They
without-
should be taking a job $16 an hour, but you shouldn't be giving them an extra $6 in post-employment benefit.
So we don't want to, for new employees, say we get a new clerk in 10 years, you're saying after 30 years, you retire with no medical benefits?
Any place that they go get a job in this town, they will have no retiree
Yeah,
benefit.
they'll be just like everybody else.
Right.
Where else can you go get a job that gives you post-employment benefits? You can't. It doesn't exist.
okay, look,
Okay,
we gotta think about that. What else do these?
Well, no, but
words
it's the answer to the question. is
Let's
there is
quickly
no
go through
alternative.
this. We have the first section is very clear about when you're hired and what you're eligible for.
Yep. And then the eligibility is, the way it's sketched out here, that you have to have at least 20 years of continuous service, be at least age 62, but then there's a trump card. If you do 30 years of service, you can go at 55. Now, your post-employment liability is still going to be fixed by a bucket of money,
I'm sorry, your post-employment liability is what?
fixed by the $2 an hour, $3 an hour for every hour that you work.
This is the formula on the next
Right.
page.
As far as to get in the game, you have to be 20 years and 62 unless you have 30 years and then you can go at 55. And again, this is triggered on the retirement system, because if I have 30 years of service, I can retire anytime after 55 without
It's
penalty.
cheaper to retire.
And what are we doing on retiree spouse?
Well, the retiree spouse is that this, again, I'm talking about the eligibility, not the premium that you're paying, because that's fixed by the bucket of money. That a retiree spouse is the type of thing, they have to be eligible for the coverage at the time that you retired. It doesn't mean that they have to be in your plan, but they have to be eligible for the coverage at the time that you retired. Maybe they had their own insurance. But at the time that you're retired, they were eligible, they can play with this, or participate in this. Number two, it has to be that they don't have an alternate coverage. So you're an insurer of last resort. And then if they die, there's no coverage. So surviving spouse, there's no surviving spouse coverage. That's what life insurance is for.
But they can buy in.
Well,
They'll be in Medicare, and
yeah,
They'll
they
be
can
in
buy in if they
Medicare.
want to. And then the insurance plan, you make available the same plan that you make for your actives until they get to retirement age, and then you're going to do a Medicare supplement. And then this says that you would not pay the Part B, so you pay the supplement, but they would have to pay their B.
how much is the B?
For most people, it's $104. For some people, it's $121. It really depends on their age.
Now, my understanding
Per month.
is that we currently pay in Part B benefits $15,111. We pay, I guess it's the minimum $1,259 per person, so we're talking about taking away 15,000. And I guess we'll come back. This one gives me pause.
The next part, 628 and 629. 628, anybody who retired prior to now, you're going to continue to pay 100% of it. So, again, if you're committed to $325,000 post-employment benefit, you're still committed to it.
But you're reducing, now I think we pay 100% for the spouse while the retired employee is still living. Now, this is a change, it cuts it.
No, right now you're paying, I'll have to go back and look. I thought you were paying 100% of the individual, 50% of the additional cost of the spouse.
No.
I don't have what you're looking at, so I'm a little bit lost in the.
What do we currently pay for?
You pay 100% of family
100.
plan, two-person plan for the retirees?
Retired, yes.
It's not 100% of individual, 50% of family?
No, it's 100%.
Wow.
For somebody who didn't even work for you?
I'm sorry, what?
For somebody who didn't even work for you, you're paying their full ride.
Wow. I wonder how that ever happened. That's like.
Well,
I think,
it used to
I
be
think
insurance
medical
was
insurance
cheap.
didn't cost anything.
And so you just gave it away without thinking, and nobody, I mean, let me show you the charts. You will freak out if you see the charts. And where are you coming up with that money?
Do you guys want to schedule another meeting?
Yeah.
Michael, when's your next availability in the evening?
Want to do it after the union meeting?
Or sooner if we can?
Or is that too late? It's the 15th?
I think we may have to do it sooner.
Did you schedule a meeting for December 5th?
Yeah, but that's in the morning.
Yeah, and I hate to say that evening I have to drive to Binghamton.
All right, well, just tell us when your next thing is.
7?
The 7th?
Yep.
What time?
Anytime after 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Elaine, can you do a little earlier or no?
Yeah, I will.
I mean,
will.
can we do it earlier, like 4 or 5? Does that work?
Sure.
Let's do it.
What day we're talking
We're talking about Wednesday the 7th
about?
at
I could be here 4:30.
4:30. Is that all right? We'll go over medical benefits with the supervisor question. We will continue talking about retirement benefits, and we will have changes from employees on employment practices and compliance manual.
Sounds good.
And I'm gonna send what I have to date now to the clerk tomorrow morning.
And to us as well.
Again, is this something we should be circulating, because
It's a public record, Joe.
That's fine, but it's really, whatever he's gonna do is still a draft.
I think people have the
It says
right to
draft
see
on
it as, in a draft form.
It says draft on the first page.
Shoot, that was a marathon.
Thanks, everybody. I'd like to make a motion. Does anybody else have anything you want to say? You guys okay with that meeting, that next meeting?
The 7th at 4:30.
And
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Good night, everybody.